Chapter 642, True Colors Revealed. Everyone present was stunned, with expressions of astonishment on their faces. What did he say? Emperor Dongyu is actually an immortal vampire. This is impossible. How can Emperor Dongyu be an immortal vampire? This is simply nonsense. Absurd, so ridiculous. Does Immortal Yi know what he is talking about? Only a ghost can believe it. All the immortal emperors expressed their disbelief with doubts on their faces. After all, Emperor Dongyu is one of the elders of Immortal Court. How could such a big man be an immortal vampire? Absurd. The other 7 elders recovered from the shock and looked at Yi Junlin with undisguised contempt on their faces. They felt that Yi Junlin was deliberately seeking revenge. When it comes to identifying undead vampires, he has no real ability at all. He is just trying to please others. Seeing that the direction of public opinion was leaning towards him, Emperor Dongyu, who was still a little flustered just now, quickly regained his composure and sneered. Is this your inference? You don't do anything, you just make a conclusion based on your naked eyes, and you also throw dirty water on me. Haha, it's a shame that Taishang Lu still values you so much. Lu Wangshu's face was slightly dull, and he tried his best to smooth things over and said, I think Lord Yi Xian may be joking. Yi Junlin shook his head, I'm not kidding. The one standing next to you is the immortal vampire pretending to be a vampire. The real Emperor Dongyu is already dead. If the words are not surprising, then I will die. As soon as these words came out, the whole place was in an uproar. Emperor Dongyu's face was livid and he said angrily, You are slanderous. You say I am an undead vampire pretending to be a vampire. Do you have any evidence? Among the crowd, an immortal emperor said angrily, This is too ridiculous. You must know that under the leadership of Emperor Dongyu, Tianju Pavilion also captured an undead vampire a while ago, but this Yi Xian advocated it. I think this is slander, this is naked slander. The immortal emperors nodded, and their favorability towards Yi Junlin dropped again and again. Shut up, Immortal Yi is definitely not such a person. I believe what Immortal Yi said. Bu Qinfen immediately stood up to support him. Li Ruotong looked at Emperor Dongyu with cold eyes and hostility. Since Yi Junlin identified the other party, she would choose to believe it without reservation. If this is true, Su Yingwo thought of something and observed the situation around him nervously, with a vague premonition in his heart. Master Yi, do you have any evidence? On the high bronze platform, Lu Wangshu looked directly into the eyes of the silver-haired young man and said seriously. Of course, Yi Junlin said seriously, my eyes are the evidence. Everyone was suddenly speechless and looked weird. Damn, what kind of evidence is this? You are deliberately causing trouble. Boy, do you know what you are talking about? If you continue to talk nonsense, even I can't help you. Lu Wangshu said anxiously secretly. After all, Emperor Dongyu was the head of the elders and held a high position. He couldn't imagine that such a person would be brutally murdered and replaced by an undead vampire. The most important thing was that Yi Junlin's basis for judgment was too childish. So what if he believed it? There is no way to convince the crowd in this situation. HMPH, you all have seen it. This person not only ignored the laws of the Immortal Court and killed my members of the Tianju Pavilion wantonly, but also slandered me in public, trying to confuse right and wrong and distort the facts. Such a treacherous and evil person is actually qualified for the position of Beihan Immortal Lord. Do you think this is appropriate? I even have reason to suspect that he is the real undead vampire pretending to be someone who intends to disrupt the order of our Immortal Court. The top priority should be to capture this person immediately, put him in the Sky Prison, and investigate thoroughly. Emperor Dongyu's voice was as powerful as a bell, and his words were filled with an irresistible sense of oppression. The atmosphere in the palace became extremely solemn, as if a war was about to break out. Absolutely not, Lu Wangshu dissuaded with sweat overflowing from his forehead. Mrs. Lu, do you still want to protect him now? Emperor Dongyu snorted and said dissatisfied. According to what Emperor Dongyu said, it's better to take this person into custody first. From the elder faction, a tall creature wearing a flat crown and a dragon's head said in a deep voice, his blazing eyes like a bright lamp. He is the ancestor of the Golden Dragon clan and is known as the Immortal Dragon Emperor. The debate power is the strongest among the 8 elders. The reason why Emperor Dongyu is the head of the 8 elders is actually because he was the earliest to participate in the establishment of Immortal Court, and he has always been highly respected and has the greatest say. It is worth mentioning that Emperor Dongyu and the Immortal Dragon Emperor have the deepest friendship in private, which is why the Immortal Dragon Emperor stepped forward to help. Oops. Realizing that the situation was getting out of control, Lu Wangshu felt a headache. In his opinion, Yi Junlin is very strong, but every elder is in the ranks of the top immortal emperors, and with the power to lead the immortal court, various 9th grade Dao formations can be opened at will. Once a fight breaks out, Yi Junlin will definitely be at a disadvantage. Who knows? Yi Junlin was still calm, not even feeling that he was trapped in the whirlpool. In his eyes, the immortal emperors around him who were eager to perform meritorious deeds were just ants who overestimated their abilities. Haha, since you don't want to admit it, then I will let you show your true colors. After Yi Junlin finished speaking, he flashed to the bronze platform. What you up to? Emperor Dongyu's expression changed and he subconsciously took 2 steps back. Bold, how dare you show off in public? The immortal dragon emperor was instantly furious, and his whole body emitted a bright golden light. A huge dragon power erupted like a volcano, making people tremble with fear. Roar! A high-pitched dragon roar sounded. A dragon claw hand, as hard as divine iron and covered with scales, blasted out with terrifying might. In the void, there was also a shadow of a 5-clawed golden dragon surrounding it, which was extremely visually impactful. Bang! This powerful dragon claw hand blasted heavily on Yi Junlin. As a result, Yi Junlin remained motionless and was not hurt at all. On the contrary, the immortal dragon emperor was shocked and retracted his hand as if he had been electrocuted. His palm was bleeding, and he was shaking violently, and he screamed in pain. Ah, this scene was unbelievable to the immortal emperors. They knew that the strength of the immortal dragon emperor was definitely the top 5 in the entire immortal world. He was a real super strong man and the supreme dragon. However, the full strength attack not only did not hurt the opponent, but also hurt himself in the end. The physical strength of this Yi Shenju was too abnormal. Yi Junlin shrugged. This attack was no pain to his holy body. He looked at the shocked Dongyu Emperor, a mocking smile on his lips, and punched out fiercely. Dongyu Emperor's scalp was numb, and he wanted to do something, but Yi Junlin's fist was extremely fast and landed on his belly. Bang! The air exploded. The whole heavenly palace seemed to tremble violently. Dongyu Emperor fell to the ground without any image, his belly was deeply sunken, his back was bent like a shrimp, his whole body was twitching, his eyeballs were almost bursting, and blood spit out of his mouth from time to time, mixed with the broken internal organs. Just one punch made him completely lose the power to resist. Because of the severe injury, it was difficult to maintain the disguise, and the whole person showed his original form at a speed visible to the naked eye. A pair of light red blood wings on his back and a pair of sharp fangs in his mouth all marked his identity. At this time, the undead vampire man with curly hair fell to the ground, sweating profusely from the pain, and his breath was extremely weak. Seeing this, everyone was stunned. How is this possible? Lu Wangshu and other elders also lost their voices in disbelief. Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Tabula below article thumbnail, 300 by 250 feet, placement, below article thumbnail 300 by 250 feet, target _type, mix. Chapter 643, A Fight to the Bitter End. They didn't expect that what Yi Junlin said was actually true. It turned out that Emperor Dongyu was really dead and had long been replaced by an undead vampire. So the undead vampires had always been lurking around them, at the highest power center of the immortal court. Lu Wangshu felt a chill on his back, and was terrified when he thought about it. The most outrageous thing was that he also agreed to the other party's request to establish the Tianju Pavilion, hoping that the Tianju Pavilion could find out the undead vampires in the immortal court. Thinking of the words of this impostor, Lu Wangshu felt quite absurd. Isn't this the thief crying, "Catch the thief"? Master Yi is really amazing. He can tell at a glance that the Emperor Dongyu is an immortal vampire in disguise. If it weren't for Master Yi, we would have been deceived. No wonder the employment system of Tianju Pavilion is so childish. It turns out that this evil beast did it on purpose. The purpose is to split the immortal court and stir up our internal conflicts. This guy just wants to muddy the waters to cover up the rest of his companions. Now I want to know how many immortal vampires are lurking in the immortal court besides him. The whole audience was silent for a short time, and then it exploded instantly. The immortal emperors felt ashamed of being played around, and deeply hated the immortal vampires. At the same time, their trust in Yi Junlin reached a peak, believing that Yi Junlin was the savior who saved the immortal court. After all, the ability to see the disguise of the immortal vampires with the naked eye alone is still unique in the world today. Haha, I knew Master Yi was right. Bu Qinfen said excitedly. In the crowd, Yu Washeng's eyes widened, and his pupils trembled violently. Looking at the undead blood man who was knocked to the ground by a punch and lost his fighting ability, his heart was like a storm, and a piercing chill rushed up his spine and rushed to the top of his head, and his scalp almost exploded. How is it possible that this Yi Tiandi is so powerful? Yu Washeng immediately realized the seriousness of the situation, and beads of sweat overflowed from his forehead and slid down his cheeks. That's right, the undead blood who pretended to be the Emperor Dongyu was the boatman who met him a while ago. As for the Emperor Dongyu, he was killed by him and the other blood emperors a long time ago. The one who secretly replaced his identity was an undead blood strongman second only to the blood emperor Luan Tian, named Shuizi. Later, because the blood emperor Luan Tian was exposed, the immortal court set off a storm of internal investigation. Shuizi took the opportunity to propose the establishment of Tianju Pavilion with the identity of the Emperor Dongyu. On the surface, Tianju Pavilion was helping Shanting solve the internal troubles, but in fact it was a carnival of a group of mobs. Under the deliberate connivance and guidance of Shuizi, the members of Tianju Pavilion acted recklessly outside, taking chicken feathers as a token of authority, persecuting loyal people, making Shanting a mess, and people in panic. Moreover, in order to allow Tianju Pavilion to gain a firm foothold, Shuizi also carefully planned a big drama, which was to use illusions to confuse the members of Tianju Pavilion present, making them all think that they had caught a real undead vampire. Then, they used this to publicize it to the outside world, frantically building momentum for Tianju Pavilion, and forcibly suppressing all kinds of doubtful voices. Originally thought that everything was seamless and could safely pass the final stage of the plan. Result: Yi Junlin saw through Shuizi's disguise in public and completely destroyed the plan. This means that all the undead vampires lurking in Shanting will be caught one by one. In this regard, Yu Washeng's mentality almost exploded. He didn't know what to do. He felt as if his neck was being strangled by a hand. He couldn't even breathe. His chest was very depressed and dull. With all the members of the undead blood clan being arrested, he might be exposed. At that time, all efforts would be in vain. I said he was fake, but you still didn't believe it. Yi Junlin flicked his fingers. Emperor Dongyu, Lu Wangshu and the others found it difficult to accept for a while, and felt very sad and desolate in their hearts. Emperor Dongyu was the most generous and righteous among the 9 of them. He lived from ancient times to this era, but he didn't expect to die in the hands of the undead blood clan in the end. The immortal dragon emperor was extremely sad. He raised his hand to grab the lingering blood feather, staring at a pair of blood-red vertical pupils, and roared out of control. Answer me, how many of your kind are lurking in the immortal court? Who is the spy who has been supporting you all the time? Hearing this, the Yu Huasheng in the crowd felt cold all over, and his heart suddenly rose to his throat. Shuizi's face was pale, and he endured the pain in his body and sneered, "Haha, you will never know." Yi Junlin raised his eyebrows. "With me here, where do you get the confidence to say such stupid things?" With his golden pupils, it is easy to capture all the undead blood clans, and naturally he can force out the spies in the immortal world hidden behind them. Human race, I have calculated everything, but I didn't expect you to really see through my disguise. Shuizi stared at Yi Junlin with hatred, thinking that the other party was the culprit who destroyed the plan of the undead blood clan. If the other party hadn't obstructed it, this immortal world would have been captured by the Juyu coalition long ago. No way, because I have good eyesight, Yi Junlin said truthfully. Hearing this, Shuizi was so angry that he spit out blood again, and his breath became more and more weak. The strange thing is that he should have been able to heal himself, but after being hit by Yi Junlin, he was injured so severely that he could hardly maintain his self-healing ability. Shuizi couldn't believe that there was such a terrifying monster in the immortal world. No wonder Luantian Shuidi was defeated by the other party before. Don't get too proud too early. We still have a chance to make a comeback. Although the hope is slim, we can still defeat the enemy and turn the immortal court upside down. As he spoke, Shuizi's face was terrifying and his eyes became very fierce. No, are they going to? Lu Wangshu had an ominous premonition in his heart. Do it. Shuizi raised his head and roared, with unyielding determination. The sound waves rolled and shook in all directions. In an instant, in the crowd, several immortal emperors suddenly rose up and moved individually at extremely fast speeds. Obviously, they are all pretending to be undead vampires. At this moment, as the conspiracy is exposed, they all make a desperate attempt to defeat Shanting to the death. That's a divine general with 80 million heavenly weapons. I didn't expect that he is also an immortal vampire. The Lord Howling Xing, who is in charge of the Immortal Palace Treasure House, and the 5 Extremes War Emperor, who is known as the strongest shield of Baitionman, are actually undead vampires. Quick, stop them. The palace soon fell into chaos, and the Immortal Emperors took action in anger, trying to capture these dozen immortal vampires on the spot. This scene also made them feel scared. Who would have thought that the undead vampire clan had penetrated to this extent without knowing it? There are many important figures in the Immortal Court who have been brutally murdered and replaced by silent ones. If Yi Junlin were not present today, these undead vampires could continue to lurk and discuss important matters in the immortal world with them. Then, when the time comes, he will reveal his true colors and stab them in the back. Just thinking about it makes you shudder. You evil beast, where can you escape? Bu Qinfen held the sky-shaking sword and slashed at one of the Blood Emperors with great momentum. Li Ruotong and Su Yingwo took action one after another and joined the battle. Rumble. The entire Mila Palace was trembling, and even the so-called First Heavenly Palace in Immortal Court could not withstand such a melee of unprecedented scale. Suddenly, one of the powerful immortal vampires activated a token after risking his life to escape from the Heavenly Palace. Boom! Suddenly, a vast ray of light shot straight into the sky, and the entire Immortal Court was trembling violently. There were countless runes swimming in the void, exuding destructive energy. Even an Immortal Emperor-level figure would feel as small as an ant under such terrifying pressure. Just because this is the most powerful formation in Immortal Court, the guarding formation is activated. Oh no, it was the court-protecting formation I set up back then. Lu Wangshu's expression changed drastically, and a strong sense of panic emerged in his heart. The Gote formation was his most proud masterpiece. It was the last super line of defense for Immortal Palace, enough to turn the tide. Its grade has already surpassed the 9th grade Taoist formation, and is infinitely close to the legendary Holy formation. Strictly speaking, it is a relatively incomplete pseudo-holy array. Even so, the power that explodes is enough to threaten an ordinary saint. As for that kind of semi-saint level powerhouse, I am afraid that he would be filled with hatred in front of this guarding formation. This is the terrifying part of the guarding formation, and the reason why Lu Wangshu feels frightened. Prior to this, the authority to activate the guarding formation was in the hands of Immortal Emperor Daemon alone. Because Immortal Emperor Daemon was loyal to the Immortal Court, and he was usually undisciplined and did not fight for anything, Lu Wangshu was very reassured and trusted in him. As a result, Immortal Emperor Daemon was also brutally killed and replaced by a powerful immortal vampire, so his authority to control the guarding formation naturally fell into the hands of the other party. Now that the Dongchuang incident has occurred, the Gote formation has become a trump card in the hands of the undead vampire clan. Although Lu Wangshu mainly wanted to protect the Immortal Court when he set up this formation, if it is deliberately controlled by someone who is interested, the protecting court array can also cause internal destruction. Under this extremely powerful formation, even the top immortal emperors would be wiped out in ashes. This was simply not something they could stop. Immortal Court is in danger. Chapter 644, Life and Death. Boom. As the Guardian Array rose, the entire vast sky seemed to be shattered, and the Immortal Court was shrouded in this terrifying aura. Everyone was shocked by this sudden vision, and their faces showed deep fear. All the immortal officials in the Immortal Court could not get out at this moment, and were trapped in the Guardian Array. Ironically, the Guardian Array was originally created to protect the Immortal Court, but now it has become a powerful means for the Undead Blood Clan to deal with the Immortal Court. This is the Guardian Array. Unless the Immortal Court is invaded by foreign enemies and has reached a critical moment of life and death, this formation will not be easily opened. Many lower-ranking immortal officials looked at the rune barrier that emerged in the sky, and their expressions were unbelievable. You know, the Immortal Court Summit will be held today, and the Miro Palace has gathered the strongest combat forces from the Immortal Realm. Under such a prosperous momentum, how could the Immortal Court face a major crisis? Besides, where did the foreign invasion come from? Why didn't they see it? General Filong, could it be that foreigners are attacking us? The heavenly soldiers looked suspicious and raised their heads to the sky, with a look of confusion in their eyes. General Filong was also confused. He was guarding the south gate of heaven well, and there was no threat from external factors at all. As a result, the Immortal Court inexplicably activated the Great Court Protection Formation, which made him feel incredible. Something is wrong. The Great Court Protection Formation will never be activated for no reason. It is in the hands of the Great Dream Immortal Emperor. There is only one reason, that is, there must be an accident at the Immortal Court Summit. Everyone, follow me to the Miro Palace. General Filong quickly thought of this and shouted. Yes. At the same time, the other heavenly generals who noticed something was wrong also decisively gave up their duties of guarding the heavenly gate, and each led their troops to the center of the immortal court. The mighty heavenly soldiers and generals rushed in all directions. Miro Palace, the most spectacular palace in the sky, was unable to withstand the power of the immortal emperors, and fine cracks appeared all over the body, crackling and shattering. Boom, thick smoke and flying dust. Everyone looked at the terrifying aura of the guarding court array, and their scalps tingled. For a moment, they froze in place and did not continue to chase and kill. Ha ha ha, you didn't expect that my companions had already mastered the guarding court array and could have the power to destroy the immortal court at any time. It's all your fault that it has come to this. Shui's knew that he would die, and laughed wildly with a strong excitement in his eyes. Although the plan was exposed, fortunately, it was the immortal court summit, which gathered the strongest creatures in the immortal world. They, the undead blood clan, could take this opportunity to catch them all in one fell swoop. It's a pity that this was a last resort. After all, everyone who participated in this operation wanted to go back alive to receive the credit and reward. Who would want to bury their bright future in this backward indigenous world? Originally, according to the progress of the later stage of the plan, they could not only play with the immortal court, but also get in touch with Juyu, and completely conquer the immortal world with internal and external cooperation. As a result, they were discovered in public. Shui's, who was unwilling to die like this, vowed to make the immortal court pay a painful price with endless hatred. Lu Taishang, why are you still standing there? Hurry up and close the great court guarding formation. Several elders said in panic. They knew the horror of the great court guarding formation. If it was controlled by the undead blood clan, the immortal court would be destroyed. Lu Wangshu was so anxious that he was in a state of panic. What a joke. Do you think this formation can be closed whenever you want? Unless you get the authorization token, no one can close it. The immortal dragon emperor gritted his teeth and said, that is to say, the authorization token is in the hands of that undead blood clan. We must snatch it back. After that, his figure turned into a mighty and sacred five-clawed golden dragon, carrying the mighty dragon power, and flew towards the top of the immortal court. Roar! The majestic dragon roar resounded between heaven and earth. Don't go, it's dangerous. Lu Wangshu shouted hurriedly. The undead blood clan with the authorization token was a pale-faced man in a blood-robed robe with a pair of flesh wings flapping on his back. He was called a blood ghost by his companions and was good at escaping in a mysterious way. It was because of this that he was able to desperately escape from the Miro Palace and activate the court-protecting formation while being chased by a group of immortal emperors. At this moment, the blood ghost, who was backed by the court-protecting formation, was full of confidence, and a creepy smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. Seeing that the five-clawed golden dragon dared to fly over, the blood ghost's eyes showed a cruel meaning. Just you. Under his control, a thunderbolt that seemed like a divine punishment struck over and landed heavily on the golden dragon. In the horrified eyes of countless people, the huge dragon body was almost broken into two pieces, charred, billowing black smoke, blood gushing out, and the dragon blood dyed the sky red. Ah! The immortal dragon emperor wailed and fell to the ground, his life breath was very weak. Brother Long, several elders were shocked. The immortal dragon emperor's physical defense is absolutely top-notch, but even so, it is difficult to withstand a blow. Don't go over, this is only the weakest power. If he is allowed to exert the strongest power of the court protection formation, we will all be finished. Lu Wangshu gritted his teeth. What should we do? Should we just sit and wait to die? An elder said unwillingly. It's a pity that Tong Wudi is in seclusion. If he were here. It's useless. The defense formation is aimed at half-saints. No matter how strong Tong Wudi is, he is only an immortal emperor. I don't think so. After all, he is the son of destiny in the immortal world. If he is in danger, the heaven will not stand by and watch. Everyone said excitedly, placing their hopes on Tong Wudi. Lu Wangshu's eyes lit up. Yes, with Tong Wudi here, maybe things will really turn around. The biggest killer of the immortal court is the protective formation, but the strongest foundation actually comes from the undefeated immortal emperor, Tong Wudi. It is worth mentioning that Tong Wudi seemed to have suffered some blow before, and he kept saying that he was a defeated emperor, which made Lu Wangshu very worried about his mental state. Later, I don't know what went wrong, he suddenly announced that he would be in seclusion, and then there was no movement. Now the situation in the immortal court is critical. Lu Wangshu hopes that Tong Wudi will be alarmed and come forward to turn the tide. Sure enough, this formation is powerful, none of you can think of leaving here alive. The blood ghost grinned. Then, he continued to inject immortal power into the token in his hand, and the token emitted a blazing light. Rumble. The entire palace protecting formation was running rapidly, and the terrifying aura of annihilation was filling every inch of the void. It's over, everything is over. Damn undead blood clan, you evil beasts are so despicable. Is this summit going to be our burial place? The faces of the immortal emperors were desperate, and they felt deeply powerless. Even as strong as the immortal dragon emperor, they couldn't withstand the attack of the palace protecting formation. No matter how many of them there were, they would definitely die in the face of such an attack. Yi Junlin was calm. After all, he had a real holy body, and the palace protecting formation couldn't hurt him anyway. In this situation, he had to solve it. Boom boom boom. Just when Yi Junlin was about to make a move, a terrifying aura burst out from the forbidden area in the deepest part of the immortal court. This aura was faintly mixed with a little holy rhyme. Who is it? Yi Junlin's expression showed a hint of surprise, and he raised his eyebrows and looked at the source of the aura. Could it be that Tong Wudi has come out of retreat? Lu Wangshu was stunned at first, and then he was overjoyed. Chapter 645, Tong Wudi's Power. As this vast sea-like aura rose into the sky, the immortal court trembled even more violently. Whoa, a powerful figure appeared in the sky above the immortal courtyard, carrying an invincible aura in every move, as if the stars in the sky were revolving around him. The figure was clearly a young man, wearing a noble golden robe, with a handsome face and a majestic air. He has a resounding title, the undefeated immortal emperor. That's right, this young man is Tong Wudi, recognized by the immortal court as the strongest fighting force, the son of destiny in the immortal world, and the one favored by heaven. His life was full of legend. He became an immortal emperor at a young age and was powerful throughout the world. Later, he defeated the Juyu army in the outer starry sky and killed many immortal emperor-level powerhouses. In short, in the eyes of the outside world, Tongwu enemy lives up to its name. It has never suffered a defeat since its debut and is on the road to true invincibility. Now, Shanting faces an existential crisis. The young immortal emperor appeared in an invincible manner, instantly attracting the attention of everyone present. Look, it's the undefeated immortal emperor. An immortal official pointed at Tong Wudi excitedly and shouted with tears in his eyes. Great, with the undefeated immortal emperor here, we can be saved. Many people suddenly became more confident and confident. It's Tong Wudi, maybe he can really turn the tide. The eyes of the immortal emperors lit up and they pinned their hopes on that young man. Lu Wangshu stared at Tong Wudi closely with doubts in his eyes. Has he reached that level? But judging from his cultivation, he is still in the realm of the immortal emperor. Oh, is this person the invincible immortal emperor Tong Wudi they call? Yi Junlin has also heard rumors about the other party, but now that he has seen it with his own eyes, it is indeed extraordinary. What surprised him the most was the fluctuation of aura coming from Tong Wudi, which was inexplicably similar to his. At this time, Tong Wudi saw the chaos in the immortal court, and at the same time there was an undead vampire leaning against the guarding formation. It would be a lie to say that he was not confused. After all, the guarding formation was used to protect the immortal palace, and it was also the strongest line of defense against invasion by foreign enemies. However, the guarding formation is now controlled by the immortal vampire clan and used to deal with the immortal court. This scene makes Tong Wudi, who was disturbed and came out of seclusion, feel very incredible, and his eyes show surprise. What's going on? Why did the good immortal court become such a ghost during my absence? Tong Wudi reacted, shocked and angry. Tong Wudi, I don't have time to explain to you. The undead vampires used despicable means to obtain the authorization token. Now they are controlling the guarding formation and trying to destroy the entire immortal garden. Stop them quickly, Lu Wangshu said quickly. The immortal vampires. Tong Wudi was very angry, his eyes were cold, his long hair was messy and flying, and the aura all over his body was particularly terrifying. Invincible immortal emperor, I have heard of you. You are the strongest native of the human race in this world. Many powerful dukes in our race have fallen at your hands. Just for this reason, you deserve everything. Die. The vampire was stunned at first, and roared with a fierce look on his face. Tong Wudi sneered, you want me to die? Are you worthy? HMPH, now that I have control over the Gote formation, no immortal emperor can be my opponent. Including you. The vampire's eyes burst out with extreme murderous intent, and he shouted violently, die to me. In an instant, the Gote formation erupted with terrifying power fluctuations, and dozens of extremely thick world-destroying thunderbolts landed together, heading straight for Tong Wudi. Looking at the vast sea of thunder in the sky, everyone in the immortal court was frightened, chills ran down their backs, and their scalps almost exploded. There was only one strike just now, which almost killed the immortal dragon emperor. Now there are dozens of world-destroying tribulation thunders coming out. It is hard to imagine how terrifying the power is. This is far beyond what the immortal emperor can bear. Can that young immortal emperor stop him? Boom. The next second, dozens of world-destroying thunderbolts exploded on Tong Wudi, releasing an unparalleled energy aura. The surrounding void could not withstand the impact, and was shattered in an instant, creating indescribable space whirlpools. Ha ha ha, go to hell. The vampire shouted excitedly. When I think that the most powerful human immortal emperor in immortal court died in his hands, I feel a sense of accomplishment. Suddenly, he noticed something was wrong, his expression suddenly changed, his eyes showed an incredible look, and he lost his voice. How is that possible? What came into view was the sky-wide thunder light that was gradually annihilated, and was finally punched through by a golden-robed young man with a fierce and invincible aura. Tong Wudi's figure is tall and straight, standing in the air. Feeling the significant changes brought about by this transformed new body, a smug smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. This body of his is not the body of an immortal, but the body of a semi-saint. Strictly speaking, Tong Wudi did not completely break away from the realm of immortality, he just condensed a semi-saint body, and his cultivation was still in the realm of the immortal emperor. Even so, with his half-saint body, almost nothing in this world can pose a threat to him. This is also the reason why we were able to withstand the attack of the Gote formation just now. In fact, situations like Tong Wudi's also exist in the vast universe. The biggest reason is that I am fully qualified to break through to the Holy Realm, but due to the limited training environment, I can only settle for the second best and condense the body of a semi-saint through various opportunities and coincidences. You must know that Tong Wudi was born with the destiny of the immortal world and is a son of heaven. If the immortal world is suitable for the birth of a strong man in the Holy Realm, then he will definitely be the fastest one. But the immortal world is a low-level world. Although there are some signs of transforming into a middle-level world, it is still far away. And Tong Wudi experienced a failure in the Supreme Secret Realm and tasted the experience of being beaten for the first time in his life. His Taoist heart almost collapsed and he fell into a period of depression. After all, he had always been smooth sailing before without a single defeat. As a result, that not only was he defeated this time, he was also defeated miserably. This makes it difficult for Tong Wudi not to doubt life. Later, Tong Wudi regrouped his Taoist heart and burst out with stronger fighting spirit. At the same time, by chance, he realized the shortcut to the holy path, so he simply stayed in seclusion and improved himself. After all, Tong Wudi is the son of heaven in the immortal world. After many dangerous attempts, he destroyed his perfect immortal body and finally reshaped it into a semi-saint body. Due to the limitations of the heaven and earth environment, he can only do this. Otherwise, with his qualifications and background, he would have been able to cause a holy calamity and break through to become a saint. But before Tong Wudi could stabilize the semi-saint's body, he was disturbed by the huge noise coming from outside. To his annoyance, he could only leave the border early to check the situation. Seeing that Tong Wudi could withstand the attack of the guarding formation, the entire immortal court fell silent at first, and then a commotion broke out. Damn it, the undefeated immortal emperor is fine. Awesome, so awesome, worthy of being the undefeated immortal emperor, the strongest man in the entire immortal world. We can be saved, Shanting can be saved, everyone shouted excitedly, their eyes full of hope. Hiss, that guy is obviously stronger than before. Bu Qinfen took a deep breath. A long time ago, he had a sparring match with his opponent, but he was knocked to the ground by 2 punches from his opponent, bang bang, and was completely defeated. Now, my strength has improved greatly, but if I face this person again and I can't even catch a punch, I will be beaten to death on the spot. This is the difference. Old Lu, it seems your guarding formation can't do anything to that kid Tong Wudi. One of the elders clapped his hands happily. Yeah, maybe, the expression on Lu Wangshu's face was unnatural, and he was still shocked inside, but there was a cloud of sadness that always lingered in his heart and was difficult to dissipate. Just because this is less than half the power of the Gote Great Formation. Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Tabula below article feed. Placement. Below article feed. Target _type. Mix. Chapter 646 It doesn't matter, I will take action. Just when everyone regained their confidence and looked forward to Tong Wuti's miracle, there was a terrible movement in the guarding formation. Rumble. A more terrifying aura erupted than before, covering the entire place like the mighty power of God. The runes all over the sky are so blazing, each one is as dazzling as a star. I don't believe you can stop me next time. The vampire roared, holding up the token in his hand and controlling the Gote formation. At this time, he had figured out how to control it and could perfectly unleash the power of the Gote formation. Boom boom boom, hundreds of world-destroying thunderbolts crisscrossed and turned into a big net to cover Tong Wuti. With this unparalleled power, even if 1,000 immortal emperors united, they would all be destroyed by the bombardment. Under this powerful formation attack, Tong Wuti's eyes rarely showed a hint of solemnity. However, the next second, it was replaced by endless fighting spirit. Well done. Tong Wuti's fighting spirit was high and he charged into the thunder net fearlessly. There was a sparking sound all over his body, and the surface of his skin gradually turned red, like a soldering iron. He gritted his teeth fiercely, and large beads of sweat overflowed from his forehead. Although he felt a huge pressure, he still bombarded the thunder net like crazy, and his half-saint body withstood a huge amount of damage. This scene seems to be an undefeated monkey trying to break through the shackles of Wujishin. Obviously, facing the full power of the Gote formation, Tong Wuti was not as relaxed as before. HMPH, you're quite stubborn, so let's try this. The vampire said with a ferocious smile. The words just fell. A thunder dragon condensed from thousands of tribulation thunders roared out with terrifying power. Suddenly, the air froze, and everyone found it difficult to move. It happened that at this moment, Tong Wuti reluctantly tore open the thunder net, and what he saw was a huge thunder dragon. You can imagine his mood. Hold. Tong Wuti couldn't help but uttered a curse word, and was immediately hid and submerged in this vast sea of thunder. Boom. The earth-shattering explosions are endless. Soon, a charred figure with billowing smoke fell straight down, creating a deep pit. Whoa, Tong Wuti jumped out and barely managed to keep his feet. There were scars of various sizes on his body, and blood was dripping down his body. He no longer had the invincible and brave posture he had when he first appeared. At this moment, he looked completely embarrassed. See this scene. The hearts of everyone in the immortal court suddenly sank. Could it be that even the invincible immortal emperor? The eyes of the immortal emperor present were much sadder, and a familiar feeling of despair returned again. The elders were shocked and frightened. Then they thought of something and angrily rebuked Lu Wangshu. Old Lu, it's all your fault. Who told you to design the Gote formation to be so powerful? It's caused us all great harm. Quote question mark question mark question mark quote. Lu Wangshu's mind was filled with questions and he felt very aggrieved. No, is this all my fault? The power of the Gote formation is so strong, isn't it all to protect the immortal garden? Who knew it would evolve into this? Ha ha ha, good job. That's it, kill them all. At least it's worth dying. On the bronze platform, Shuizi laughed crazily with a face on his face. Damn it, Yu Washang gritted his teeth, looking worried. He really didn't want to die, but in this situation, he might be implicated. Thanks to the support of the Gote formation, the vampire was confident and looked down at the young immortal emperor below with a perverted smile on his lips. I admit that you are strong, but the more powerful you appear, the more I will feel accomplished by killing you. In the past, a guy like him couldn't even match a finger, but now, he can force the opponent to this point. This mood is so exciting. Tong Wuti felt heavy, because the Gote Grand formation was beyond his endurance. The most important thing is that this half-saint body has not yet stabilized, otherwise he would not be in such a mess. If he continues to fight, even if he has a semi-saint body to rely on, his body will be broken. With the last blow, you will definitely die. The vampire's eyes glowed fiercely, and he activated the highest offensive permission of the Gote formation. He couldn't wait to see Tong Wuti die. After all, Tong Wuti is the strongest person in the immortal court and even the immortal world. Once this person dies, it will be a foregone conclusion. Boom 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 boom. The Gote array was running wildly, and 9 chaotic thunderballs that were as dazzling as the sun gathered in the sky above the immortal court, like 9 stars in a row, and were aimed at Tong Wuti below. At this moment, Tong Wuti felt an unprecedented sense of oppression. Suddenly, 9 chaotic thunder balls advanced one after another, pressing towards Tong Wuti with a vast surging power. Tong Wuti gritted his teeth. He knew that he was the last hope of Shanting. There was no possibility of retreat now and he had to fight to the death. Kill. Tong Wuti let out an angry roar, which spread like a dragon's roar and a tiger's roar in all directions. Then, under the shocked gazes of countless people, he turned into a golden rainbow and shot out with unparalleled momentum. Invincible immortal emperor, I'm begging you. All the immortal officials had tears in their eyes and their hearts were in their throats. Tong Wudi charged up his fists and punched out, digging wildly. A chaotic thunderball couldn't withstand it and was shattered. Immediately afterwards, there is the second one, the third one, and the fourth one. Until the fifth one, Tong Wudi's momentum weakened significantly and it became extremely difficult. When he got to the sixth one, he was covered in wounds, his body was covered with broken marks, and a trace of holy rime was emanating. Tong Wudi showed a trace of grief and anger in his eyes, and he had a premonition that he would die soon. His legendary life was about to end. Before he died, his biggest regret was not that he could not stop the great array of the court, but that he could not fight with the mysterious man who had defeated him at that time. He still remembered that when he was in the Supreme Secret Realm, he was beaten up in the Supreme Canyon by a guy named Wudi How Lonely. He was so shocked that he doubted his life and his Taoism almost collapsed. What he wanted to do most after he came out of retreat was to find the mysterious man who had fought with him at that time. Then, defeat him squarely. What a pity, there was no chance anymore. He would never know what the former trialist named Wudi How Lonely was in reality, and he would never be able to compete with him again. Regret, annoyance, unwillingness, grief, all kinds of complex emotions intertwined in my heart. No, Tong Wudi lost. He is the undefeated immortal emperor, how could he lose? If Tong Wudi dies, it will be our turn next. For a time, the scene was filled with cries of grief, and everyone in the immortal court looked like a mother, and their hearts were filled with despair. Lu Wangshu grabbed his hair in pain, his eyes were full of bloodshot, and he said with difficulty, "It's over, everything is over. The foundation of the immortal court for countless years will be destroyed today. He is a sinner of the immortal world. Who would have thought?" A light voice floated beside him. "It doesn't matter, I will take action." Lu Wangshu was stunned, and then his face was incredible. What did he see? In the field of vision, the silver-haired young man calmly ascended to the sky, waved his hand and destroyed the chaotic thunderball in front of Tong Wudi. His posture was chic and casual, and he seemed very relaxed. Chapter 647 It's You. This sight made countless desperate people stunned for an instant. Especially Tong Wudi, who looked at this figure with disbelief in his eyes, feeling extremely shocked in his heart. Holy shit, what's going on? The sixth Chaos Thunderball, which I couldn't resist even with all my life, was just destroyed by the other party with a wave of his hand. What a fuss. There are actually experts. The vampire was stunned, and when he saw the familiar silver-haired figure, the expression on his face suddenly became wonderful. It turns out it's you. Because he saw Yi Junlin, the culprit who ruined the plan of the undead vampires. If the other party hadn't exposed the conspiracy in public, it wouldn't have gotten to this point. They can handle the situation with ease, fool everyone in the immortal courtyard, and then wait for the Nine Nether Alliance to invade. Then they can return to their home planet to receive generous rewards. In the future, they will also be sure to attack the Holy Realm and become saints and ancestors. However, all this was ruined. All plans were disrupted. They had no choice but to tear themselves apart and die together with this ancient immortal court. After all, with the power of the Gote formation, if a great purge were to begin, it would be absolutely impossible for the immortal palace to withstand it, and it would simply disintegrate internally. All creatures staying in the immortal courtyard will be killed in this big explosion, including himself. Therefore, when the vampire saw the culprit coming forward, he was not only shocked but also filled with endless anger and hatred. The sixth Chaos Thunderball was destroyed, and the other three Chaos Thunderballs followed, revealing terrifying energy fluctuations. But for Yi Junlin, this level is simply trivial. He raised his hand and clenched it into a fist, then charged up a punch and blasted it out. The power of the holy body exploded like a flood, and the power of the fist seemed to shatter the sky and break the barriers of the world. Boom boom boom. In an instant, three Chaos Thunderballs were exploded together, forming a raging sea of thunder and lightning. The silver light in the sky was extremely blazing, reflecting the slender silver-haired figure, giving him the air of an invincible master. Hiss. There were gasps in the audience. Everyone in the immortal courtyard changed their expressions, and their eyes showed deep shock. Who is he? He is actually stronger than the undefeated immortal emperor. An immortal official looked up at the silver-haired young man with a confused expression on his face. Before this, most of the immortal officials in the immortal court did not know Yi Junlin. They had only heard of his name, but had not seen him. Moreover, in their impression, Tong Wudi was the strongest combat power in Immortal Court. Now that a being appeared who was even more powerful than Tong Wudi, they naturally felt incredible. Among them, General Phylong reacted from the shock and said excitedly, "It's the Yi Immortal Lord of the Northern Cold Immortal Domain. Emperor Yi Tian." He really didn't expect that Yi Junlin would be so awesome. No wonder he dared to kill the people in Tianju Pavilion. If he had such invincible strength, he might be even more arrogant than the other party. As soon as these words came out, the Immortal Court instantly exploded. What? He is Immortal Master Beihan. Emperor Yi Tian. Damn it, together with him he is the strongest being in the immortal world. Master Yi Xian, please save Shanting. Exclamations came and went from all over the place, and all attention was focused on Yi Junlin. At this moment, even Tong Wudi, who had always attracted much attention and was regarded as the strongest person in the immortal world, was reduced to a mere foil at this moment. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Tong Wudi is far inferior to Yi Junlin. At least that's the case for now. Tong Wudi was so stunned that he almost forgot about the pain in his body. Wait a minute, when did the Northern Cold Immortal Realm have an immortal master? Who is Emperor Yi Tian? How can it be more domineering than my title? After all, during his period of seclusion, he had no idea what was happening in the outside world. However, Yi Junlin's sudden emergence and becoming the immortal master of Beihan happened after he retreated into seclusion. Soon, Tong Wudi realized that what they were shouting was the silver-haired young man in front of him. I don't know why, but I always feel that this invincible temperament is inexplicably familiar, as if he has seen it somewhere before. Certainly, what Tong Wudi finds most unacceptable is that Yi Junlin can easily break through several chaos thunderballs. You know, he has the body of a semi-saint, so it is extremely difficult for him to do this, but the other party seems so relaxed and casual. This may mean that the other party's half-saint body is more complete than his. Tong Wudi never thought that what Yi Junlin possessed was not the body of a semi-saint, but the body of a genuine true saint. The difference between one word is like a firefly and a bright moon. No way, Yi Junlin's condensation of the holy body is too shocking. Not to mention in this small immortal world, even if you look at the vast universe, it is an extremely explosive phenomenon. Tong Wudi didn't think about that at the first time, which was normal. Master Yi, he is so powerful. The eyes of the immortal emperors became completely different. Su Yingwo's reaction was particularly huge, his breathing was extremely rapid, and his beautiful eyes were full of fire. Her heart was completely conquered by Yi Junlin. As expected of my man, he brings me surprises every time. I love him so much, Su Yingwo couldn't help but said with a peach blossom face and pink love eyes. Bu Qinfen and Li Ruotong were relatively calm. After all, they had seen a scene in which the immortal world was scared away, so they had relatively strong psychological endurance. Among them, Li Ruotong frowned when he heard Su Yingwo's shameless remarks and glanced coldly, with contempt and disgust in his eyes. This vixen is so shameless. When did fellow Taoist Yi become your man? Lu Wangshu was stunned and his head was buzzing. He found that he had underestimated Yi Junlin. He thought that he could grow into a top immortal emperor in 10 years, which was a great achievement. As a result, his achievements have far exceeded the scope of immortal emperor. Compared with Tong Wudi, whom he has always valued the most, his strength is even stronger. This is incredible. Could it be that the immortal world made such a big fuss before, and even the Heavenly Way personally came to the scene? In fact, it was all because of him. Thinking of what happened a while ago, Lu Wangshu's body suddenly shook, and his eyes widened. Now it seems that it was 100% caused by Yi Junlin. And the other party can still stand here safely. Doesn't this just show that even the immortal world heaven can't do anything to him? Thinking of this, Lu Wangshu was greatly shocked, and his mood for a while could not be described in words. The vampire began to be afraid, unable to accept the fact in front of him, and screamed hysterically. Impossible. Die. You die. Then, the great array of the court burst out with divine power again. This time, 2 thunder dragons that were 10 times larger than before rushed towards Yi Junlin with their fangs and claws bared. Countless thunders spread wildly in the void, and the scene was extremely terrifying. Tong Wudi felt cold all over. If it were him, this wave would definitely not be able to stop it, and he would definitely be wiped out. Yi Junlin's mouth was tilted, and he opened fire. He raised his fists, and it was 2 bangs. Boom, boom. In an instant, the 2 world-destroying thunder dragons were blown up. At the same time, after the great array of the court was consumed with huge energy, the light of the array was dimmed a lot, and it became difficult to maintain. The reason why Yi Junlin was so relaxed was that the great array of the court could only pose a threat to the saints at most. Remember, it was a threat, not a serious injury. Therefore, Yi Junlin went all out and blew up the two thunder dragons directly. On the other hand, his body was almost not damaged at all, but his fists were a little stinging, but it healed quickly and was harmless. Swish! Taking advantage of this gap, Yi Junlin dodged and grabbed the blood ghost's neck, sneering, "It's time to end it." No, the blood ghost looked horrified, with unwillingness and despair in his eyes. The next second, he was blown up in the air by a punch, leaving no residue. Without the controller, the court protection formation also fell silent, and the entire immortal court returned to its original state. The dark clouds dissipated in an instant, and the bright sunshine shone in, setting off the silver-haired figure that looked like a god. Ah, in this situation, Yi Junlin sighed. Invincible, it's so lonely. Hearing this, Tong Wudi seemed to have thought of something, as if struck by thunder, his body shook violently, and he pointed at Yi Junlin with a trembling hand, blurting out in astonishment. "It's you, window. _Tabula equals window. _Tabula. Push mode, thumbs feed 01, container, Tabula below article feed, placement, below article feed, target _type, mix." Chapter 648. The dust has settled. Yes, it was this familiar feeling that made Tong Wudi think for a moment that Yi Junlin was the person he was looking for. After all, as a son of heaven in the immortal world, with great luck that is rare in the world, how could he fail so miserably in the Supreme Canyon under various conditions? Then there is only one possibility: the other party is a being even more awesome than him. But in this immortal world, he has never heard of it before. Now, Yi Junlin's unbelievable performance, coupled with the pretentious temperament that the six relatives did not recognize, made Tong Wudi extremely convinced of the other party's identity. In today's world, only the other party can do this. If not him, who else could it be? "It's you, it's you, it's you." At this moment, Tong Wudi was very excited, even more so than finding a long-lost relative. Yi Junlin's mind was filled with questions, and he looked at the young man as if he was mentally retarded. What's going on? A large-scale family recognition scene. Seeing that the other party was confused, Tong Wudi immediately said, "Wudi is so lonely. I am the invincible emperor. I have fought against you in the Supreme Canyon before." Hearing this, Yi Junlin suddenly realized, and the expression on his face became extremely strange. It turns out it's you. He remembered that in the Supreme Canyon before, the opponent was his biggest threat, and he was completely different from the other trialists. Of course, he was defeated in the end. Unexpectedly. The origin of the other party is so great, now everything makes sense. It's just that this sixth child is really serious. He secretly opened the back door to participate in the trial of the Supreme Secret Realm. This is a cruel act. To this, Yi Junlin cast a look of contempt. Tong Wudi was stunned and cursed in his heart. "It's true that I am going to torture the vegetables, but aren't you? Everyone is just the same." As the Gote formation disappeared, everyone breathed a sigh of relief, and their hearts filled with the joy of surviving the disaster. "Great, we survived." Many immortal officials wept with joy and cheered with tears in their eyes. The cheers were like mountain torrents and tsunamis, echoing between heaven and earth. "Thank you, immortal Master Yi, for your life-saving grace. I will never forget it." All the immortal emperors looked full of respect and bowed their hands. For this extremely powerful man who turned the tide and saved the immortal court, these immortal emperors were not only deeply grateful but also in awe of his strength. If Yi Junlin waved his hand at this time and announced that he was the lord of the immortal court, they would have nothing to say. Looking at the silver-haired figure, Lu Wangshu on the stage was in a trance for a while, so much so that he almost suspected that he was dreaming, or that he was under the influence of a top-notch illusion. Back then, the junior who inherited his immortal island was only at the Tribulation Realm, but he had grown to this point in just 10 years. What a monster with terrifying qualifications. Even the four masters of Kunlun Realm back then were willing to be defeated. No, this is impossible, this is impossible. Shuizi, who had previously pretended to be Emperor Dongyu, was exposed. When he witnessed this scene with his own eyes, he collapsed instantly and muttered to himself. He could barely accept the existence of a freak like Tong Wudi in the immortal world, but he never expected that there would be a super freak like Yi Junlin. Now that things have come to this, why don't you tell me who the spy is? Maybe it will make you feel better. An elder cast a spell to imprison the opponent's body, making him unable to move. It's not that he doesn't want to search for souls by force, but that the aliens who are sent to perform tasks have specially set restrictions on the Sea of Consciousness. Once the soul is searched by an external force, the restrictions will be violated, causing the sea of consciousness to collapse instantly. The other party will also die on the spot. But he didn't know that Shui's was already determined to die. Haha, do you think everything will be fine from now on? To tell you the truth, this game has just begun. With the failure of this operation, it also means that the immortal world is accelerating into the countdown to its demise. I will wait on the road to hell, waiting for you all. Shuizi roared hysterically. The next second, in front of everyone's astonished eyes, Shuizi opened the restraints set in advance in his body, and his whole body turned into ashes as if on fire, dissipating into the air. Damn it, you dare to confuse the public with your evil words before you die. The elders said in shock and anger. Only Lu Wangshu frowned, realizing the huge amount of information contained in what the other party said before his death. But for now, Immortal Court and even the Immortal Realm can be considered to have survived this disaster safely. It's also gratifying. Yu Wansheng, who was hiding in the crowd, felt his heart slowly sinking in his throat. His head was covered with sweat from fear. He couldn't help but lift his sleeves to wipe it, feeling a sense of fear in his heart. Fortunately, Shuizi was interesting enough and did not confess him before his death. Otherwise, even death would be a luxury for him. After all, Immortal Court has a complete set of tortures specifically used to deal with monks who cause trouble. A traitor like him who betrayed the Immortal Realm and acted as a lackey of a foreign race from outside the realm should not be allowed to enjoy the highest treatment in history. At that time, it will really be impossible to survive but not to die. Hey, I've been walking on thin ice all my life. I don't know when I will be able to reach the other side. Yu Washeng couldn't help feeling sad when he thought of his current situation. No, seal the Immortal Court quickly now. There must be some undead vampires who haven't been found yet. Suddenly, Lu Wangshu thought of something and shouted immediately. He was afraid that taking advantage of this gap, the remaining undead vampires would sneak out. Pass the order from Supreme Shanglu to seal off the Immortal Court. General Filong shouted. During this time, he also figured out the cause and effect, and knew that the Tianju Pavilion had always been the work of the Undead Blood Clan. He was immediately furious and hated the Undead Blood Clan to the bone. Hualala! The heavenly soldiers and generals from all directions immediately took action and blocked all the passages in the Immortal Court. Then, a series of battle waves were heard. Some of the Undead Blood Clan strongmen who did not have time to go out knew that they would die, so they risked their lives to drag the surrounding immortal officials with them. However, in front of the human sea tactics and the immortal emperors, their struggle was doomed to be futile, and soon they all died with hatred. It's a pity that there are still some Undead Blood Clan wandering outside. Lu Wangshu, who received the report, looked a little ugly. Don't worry, as long as they are still in this immortal world, there is no possibility of survival. An elder said in a deep voice. The dust settled. The Immortal Court returned to its previous order. Some immortal officials were rebuilding the damaged buildings and trying to restore them to their original appearance as soon as possible. As for the original members of Tianju Pavilion, they were so scared that they almost fainted after learning about the Pavilion Master's thunder. They all looked like they had lost their parents. You know, when Tianju Pavilion was in power, they were pretending to be powerful in the Immortal Court and took chicken feathers as their orders. They had offended countless immortal officials. Now that the truth is out, they will inevitably be punished and beaten like rats crossing the street. Because of the gag order, the outside world did not know what happened in the Immortal Court. After all, being messed up by the Undead Blood Clan to this extent is really a loss of face for the Immortal Court. However, the immortal emperors all knew about this process and knew who was the great hero. Not long after the incident, in a hidden cave somewhere in a majestic immortal mountain, 15 blood-robed figures stood quietly. Under the brim of the hat, their faces were very ugly. They were all powerful Undead Blood Clan members. From the initial 33, now there are only 15 pitiful ones left. It is said that Lu Wangshu was inspired by the last lesson and developed a set of instruments with arrays inside that can detect the identity of the undead vampires. After this invention came out, it was directly mass-produced, and almost everyone in the Immortal Court had one, which was like a god's help in screening. Due to the exposure of the incident and the strict search of the Immortal Court, the undead vampires had to hide from place to place, like a dog that had lost its home, fearing that they would be found one day. It was during this sensitive period that they received important news from Yu Washeng, who asked them to go to this place to meet secretly and discuss future plans. Chapter 649, Walking into a Trap. Hey, if I had known the mission was so difficult, I would never have come to wade into this muddy water. Now look, even my life is in vain. Yeah, I thought we could win with the monster Luantian Blood Emperor leading the way, but even he was killed by the natives of this world. It's terrible. Such a low-level world can still have such a super freak. This is totally unreasonable. Since the battle with the Immortal Court, the plan failed completely. We have been chased around like a dog, without even a bit of dignity. Fortunately, I ran away in advance when I saw the situation was not good, otherwise I would have died there. Now, there are only 15 of us left, and the Immortal Court has special reconnaissance equipment. Even if we want to get back in, we have no chance. In the cave, 15 undead Blood Clan strongmen complained to each other, with regret in their words and feeling extremely ashamed in their hearts. Before they came, they were full of vigor and thought they could easily deceive the world and manipulate the Immortal Court and even the immortal world. They looked down on all the cultivators here and regarded them as the most lowly and inferior creatures. As a result, the cruel reality slapped them hard again and again. They were completely out of temper. Now they just want to survive this crisis and leave this ghost place as soon as possible. Speaking of which, the spy notified us to come here, but he didn't show up himself. He wanted to play with us, right? A tall man with prominent cheekbones said with a gloomy face and dissatisfaction. He dared to make us wait here for so long. Who does he think he is? He is just a lowly native of the human race. You are right. I think the failure of this operation should be the responsibility of the immortal world. That's right, it's all his fault. A group of companions shirked the blame and tacitly pushed the fault to Yu Washang. Even the Undead Blood Clan despises traitors, especially those who betray their own race and ancestral star and turn to serve under other alien forces. The most hateful and despicable. After all, this kind of traitor can sell everything for the sake of profit, so what if he sells them out one day? Therefore, the Undead Blood Clan present all despise people like Yu Washang. If it weren't for his special identity, they would have torn him into pieces and sucked his blood dry. The most important thing is that they felt like they were being played by a fool, and they immediately became angry. At this moment, a sneer sounded in the cave, echoing in all directions. Haha, you still have the leisure to criticize me here. Don't you see what situation you are in? That was Yu Washang's voice. The temperature around dropped to the extreme, and even the void seemed to freeze into ice. What's going on? The Blood Emperors were startled and felt something was wrong. Among them, the tall man with prominent cheekbones shouted angrily, "Did you get kicked in the head by a donkey? You dare to play tricks in front of us? Hurry up and get punished, otherwise you will be in trouble." In the cave, Yu Washang's voice sounded again, with a strong sense of sarcasm and contempt. "Do you think you are still qualified to say this to me?" As soon as the voice fell, a large amount of black gas was released from the cave, and the black gas brought a strange corrosive force, as if it was going to devour all the living things here. "No, get out of here." The Blood Emperors realized that they had been tricked, and they all stood up in shock and anger. Boom, an extremely huge dull sound sounded. The 15 Undead Blood Clan strongmen were about to break through the upper wall of the cave and escape from here. With their strength, if they burst out with all their strength, let alone this small cave, even this entire immortal mountain would be turned into dust in an instant. However, things are not that simple at all. After the cave wall was hit violently, the rock layer that was originally covered exploded in an instant, revealing a dark thing with purple lines, beating rhythmically like blood vessels. This is. Seeing such a weird picture, the Blood Emperors were shocked and felt a chill on their backs. Curious, right? Let me tell you, this is my demon fetus. The shadow of Yu Washang condensed in the air, standing with his hands behind his back, looking at these undead blood clans, and sneered. "What do you want to do, human race?" Gao Danan asked with an ugly face. "What to do? You think you are noble, but you are actually dirty blood-sucking monsters. You'd better be here and become my nutrients." Yu Washang grinned. He deliberately released the news to attract these undead blood clan remnants to come here. As for this immortal mountain, he had already swallowed it with the demon fetus in advance, as a trap to attract the target. The so-called luring someone into a trap is nothing more than this. If a cultivator happened to pass by at this time, he would be horrified to find that the original vast and magnificent immortal mountain had long disappeared, replaced by a huge demon fetus, with strange purple lines on the surface, beating rhythmically like blood vessels. And inside, there are 15 undead vampires who have fallen into the trap. You are so bold that you dare to plot to murder us. Aren't you afraid of revenge afterwards? Don't forget that you are the insider. The tall man roared. Haha, if you are allowed to move around in the immortal world, you will be caught sooner or later. In order to avoid implicating me, I'd better get rid of you all in advance for safety reasons. Yu Washeng said with a cruel look. Besides, I have tolerated you for a long time since you came here. You all deserve to die. Now that the situation has developed to this point, he might as well do it without stopping, swallow it all up, and strengthen himself. The more troubled the times, the more important strength is. During this time, he was keenly aware that there was a feeling that a storm was about to come to the immortal world. While this made him feel uneasy and anxious, there was also a desire to improve his strength. Just take this opportunity to strengthen yourself. Fuck, I'll kill you. The tall man's eyes were red, his sharp fangs exposed, and he angrily rushed towards Yu Washeng. Who knows, this is just a phantom thrown in, and the real body is already outside the devil's womb. Don't waste your efforts. You all have to die here today. Being able to become my nourishment is your greatest value. Yu Washeng was pretentious and his tone was very condescending. Installed directly. Quick, let's break this damn thing. As long as we unite, there is a chance. Kill that despicable guy when we get out. A mere slave dares to bite his master. I've turned against you. A group of undead vampires burned their essence and blood crazily, and all kinds of killer weapons took turns to break this demon fetus. Rumble. The entire demon fetus was shaking violently, but it was not injured at all. It is filled with rich black energy, containing terrifying corrosive power. Ah! The shrill screams sounded one after another. One after another, the undead vampires were swallowed up by the vast black energy, and seemed to be suffering from some kind of cruel pain. The tall man was submerged in this black air. He felt a feeling of being bitten all over his body. Every inch of flesh and blood was rapidly passing away, turning into nourishment for the demon fetus. At this moment, he was completely desperate. There was a deep feeling in his eyes. With a sense of panic, he shouted. No, don't do it. Yu Washeng, who witnessed all this, sneered, you guys also want to break through my devil's womb. With his current strength, unless a top-tier powerhouse enters the demon fetus, it is possible to break through. Otherwise, anyone below the top-tier level cannot escape the fate of being devoured as long as he is in the demon fetus. After a while, inside the devil's womb, there was complete silence. Buzz buzz. Along with the strange energy fluctuations, the demon fetus disappeared and the entire immortal mountain seemed to have never appeared before. Nearby, Yu Washeng, who was sitting cross-legged, opened his eyes and raised a meaningful smile on his lips. The aura on his body is even stronger than before, and he has already entered the ranks of super first-line experts. Chapter 650 Tong Wudi, I just don't accept it. This is the terrifying part of the demon embryo transformation art. In theory, as long as it can devour enough powerful people, the caster's cultivation level will continue to improve. It's a pity that those 15 immortal vampires, if one of them had a strength above the first-tier level, he wouldn't be trapped alive in the devil's womb. Today's Yu Huasheng is confident that except for freaks like Yi Junlin and Tong Wudi, any super first-line immortal emperor powerhouse will be unable to break through his demonic fetus and will eventually be refined to death. Haha, in this way, I will truly have the ability to protect myself. Yu Washeng sneered. He plans to devour a few more powerful first-line immortal emperors, so that he can be invincible at the immortal level. Thinking of his ultimate ambition, Yu Washeng couldn't help but laugh arrogantly. Don't ask him why he suddenly laughed like this, because all major villains laugh like this. Yu Washeng felt that he had endured humiliation and heavy burdens for many years, and now he had the potential to soar into the sky, so he could naturally assume the role of a great villain. Sooner or later, this immortal world will fall into my hands. Jeeyeji. The harsh and unpleasant laughter echoed between heaven and earth, frightening many immortal birds and beasts. No, is this person sick? Immortal Court. After reconstruction, everything here has been restored as before. The palace complex is magnificent, and the purple energy comes from the east for 3,000 miles. In the antique pavilion, Lu Wangshu made a cup of tea for the silver-haired young man in front of him. The fragrance of tea overflows and the immortal spirit floats. As the earliest founder of the immortal world, Lu Wangshu's status is undoubtedly very high, but even he is willing to make tea for others without any sense of condescension. One can imagine the importance of the other person's identity. Young friend Yi, please. Yi Junlin picked up the teacup and took a sip. He suddenly felt very comfortable. Every pore was spraying out wisps of cloudy air. His whole body was bathed in the sacred light, and his face became even more divine. Good tea, Yi Junlin couldn't help but admired. Hee, of course, this tea is taken from a hibiscus immortal tree in the ancient Kunlun realm. No matter how many immortal emperors want to ask for a few leaves, they will not be able to do it. After all, this tea is specially provided for Empress Fuyao to drink. Lu Wangshu said proudly when he talked about the origin of this tea. Yi Junlin became interested. I didn't expect that your relationship is quite strong, and you can even get the tea specially supplied to Empress Fuyao. Lu Wangshu smiled mysteriously. That's because I bribed her watchdog. That guy's name is Tiantian Dog Master. I asked him to help me pick it secretly. Yi Junlin was stunned, with a strange expression. The Empress, watchdog, the heaven-swallowing dog lord. Isn't that just ignoring that guy? Unexpectedly, he used his private power to commit such self-inflicted crimes before. If Empress Fuyao discovers this, she will have a dog meat hot pot meal on the spot. All I can say is that you are so brave. Hey, this is all in the past. Nowadays, everything has changed. The levels reached by the 4 ultimates back then are everywhere in this universe. Only remnants of the old era like me will stay in the glory of the past and be unable to extricate themselves. Lu Wangshu's tone became deeper and deeper, and his expression looked very lonely. After all, he was born in the most glorious ancient period and witnessed the transformation of the Kunlun world from prosperity to decline. This was very cruel and sad for an insider like him. Xiao Yuyi, do you know? The immortal world right now is just a big, broken ship, and as the helmsman, I can only move forward reluctantly. If I'm not careful, the ship will be destroyed and everyone will die. This immortal world seems to be prosperous, but in fact, to the outside world, it is already quite backward. Lu Wangshu picked up the teacup, drank it all in one gulp, and said bitterly. He almost never confided his feelings to outsiders, not even the elders said this. Because of his status, he is not allowed to say such depressing remarks. But facing this junior who had high hopes, Lu Wangshu was willing to put down his guard and be honest with him. I understand. Yi Junlin nodded thoughtfully. In fact, the current situation in the immortal world is very much like a small, particularly closed country in his previous life. Most people know nothing about the outside world, and only those in power really know the inside story. For the sake of internal stability, those in power can only cooperate and create a powerful side to confuse the public. In fact, it is just trying to survive in the cracks. Lu Wangshu smiled bitterly and said, do you still remember the information revealed by the undead vampire before? This is a dangerous signal. It seems that we have eliminated the internal threats and the situation is great. In fact, it is accelerating the enemy's invasion of the immortal world. I'm afraid the immortal world is in danger. You mean, those guys will completely break up? Yi Junlin raised his eyebrows. That's right, the reason why our immortal world has been able to resist Juyu for so many years is because the divine court intervened, which made Juyu can only send out monks below the holy realm and did not dare to amplify the conflict. Once Juyu realizes that this endless war must be ended by the holy realm, then the immortal realm will completely become a battlefield between the two sides. Lu Wangshu's voice was low, with a hint of worry in his eyes. This is what he is most worried about. The immortal world has always been looking for a balance between the two camps, and it has barely managed to survive until now. If Juyu does not respect martial ethics and directly dispatches the Saint Realm experts, then it means that the Saint Realm agreement will be invalidated, and Shenting will also send out the Holy Realm to intervene out of shame. If this happens, the immortal world will be in catastrophe. You know, to the creatures in the Holy Realm, the strong men who stand on the top of the immortal path are nothing more than ants that can be killed with a snap of the fingers. Haha, I can't wait for them to come. Yi Junlin's smile is intriguing. After all, he is a fake saint now. If a holy realm really comes over, he can use this to make it come true. Lu Wangshu's expression froze, and he almost suspected that his ears had misheard. Ahem, Yi Junlin pretended to cough a few times and said, what I mean is that if the soldiers come to cover up the water and earth, the boat will naturally be straight when it reaches the bridge. Hear the words. Lu Wangshu was stunned for a while, not knowing what to say. After a long time, a forced smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. You have such a good attitude, I'm envious. He was indeed envious of Yi Junlin's good luck and his high cultivation qualifications. Suddenly, there was a loud shout from the horizon. Fellow Taoist Yi, how dare you fight me? The young man's voice was like thunder, resounding through the sky. Everyone in the immortal courtyard looked shocked and looked around. The one who shouted was none other than Tong Wudi. During this time, Tong Wudi couldn't accept the loss of his throne as the most powerful person in the immortal world. He attributed all of this to the unstable foundation and the fact that the semi-holy body had not yet been consolidated. Later, he devoted himself to training, not only recovering from his injuries, but also completely stabilizing his semi-saint body, and his condition had reached its peak. Tong Wudi is full of confidence. He feels it is time to challenge Yi Junlin and regain all the glory that belongs to him. You guy, what are you talking about? Lu Wangshu was so angry that he slapped the table and shouted angrily. Now that we are facing a formidable enemy, do you still have the intention to do this? Can't you save some energy and use it to deal with outsiders? In the distant horizon, a group of auspicious colorful clouds flew over. A young man wearing a golden robe stood on the colorful clouds. He had sword-shaped eyebrows and starry eyes. He was majestic, and his whole body was filled with an aura that was invincible in the world. If Yi Junlin were not here, he would be the well-deserved protagonist of this world. Tong Wudi ignored Lu Wangshu's question, looked down at the silver-haired young man in the pavilion with warlike eyes, nodded and said, Tong is here, do you dare to fight? Chapter 651 Tong Wudi, I give in. This aura, this style, this tone, he is definitely the protagonist of destiny, domineering. Yi Junlin sighed, hey, why bother? To be honest, he really doesn't want to bully the weak. After all, Tong Wudi's ability is really not enough for him. Seeing the other party's attitude, Tong Wudi, who was carrying a monstrous power, was slightly stagnant, his face was a little ugly, and he gritted his teeth and said, Do you really think that I, Tong Wudi, can't beat you? Now he can beat 2.5 of his previous self. That's right, 2.5. Yi Junlin said helplessly, since you want to fight, then I have to accompany you, but if your Dao heart collapses, don't blame me for being too heavy. Hearing this, Tong Wudi laughed 3 times up to the sky. Then, he looked at Yi Junlin again, his eyes emitting 2 sword-like golden rays, and he shouted. You are the first one who dares to be so arrogant in front of me, Tong. Come and fight, whoever is cowardly is a grandson. In the pavilion, Yi Junlin slowly drank the cup of tea, then ascended to the sky and faced Tong Wudi. The 2 figures confronted each other from a distance, attracting countless surprised eyes in the immortal court. Who do you think will win? That must be Lord Yi. Everyone has seen his previous performance. Lord Tong is not bad either, and he is full of confidence this time, so he must be fully confident. In short, this must be a hearty battle. There were speeches from all directions, and the immortal officials were whispering. Obviously, the contest between Yi Junlin and Tong Wudi has attracted great attention in the immortal court. This determines the position of the first person in the immortal world. Fellow Taoist Yi, you have to be careful next time. Tong Wudi sneered. He clenched his fist tightly and accumulated power like crazy, then, like a cannonball, he drove his fist and shot it straight out. Boom boom boom, everywhere he passed, there was a broken void, a series of huge explosions in the air, and constant roars. This punch was powerful enough to defy the heavens. Tong Wudi was very confident that this punch gathered all his strength and was his absolute use of his semi-saint body. Who knew? Yi Junlin did not move and let him hit him. Are you scared, silly? Tong Wudi raised his eyebrows slightly, until this thought flashed through his mind, and the fist with overwhelming power had already hit the other party. Bang! A heart-shaking dull sound came out. Yi Junlin's body did not move at all, standing like a sacred mountain. Tong Wudi's expression changed. You. He did not expect that after he punched him, the other party was actually unharmed. Is this a human being? What a joke! Yi Junlin smiled. I caught this punch. How about I give you a punch in return? As he spoke, he slowly raised his hand. When he clenched his fist, a large ball of terrifying aura burst out, as if the space was distorted. Rumble. The sky was windy, thundering, and dark clouds. For a moment, beads of sweat broke out on Tong Wudi's forehead, and an ominous premonition filled his heart. It seemed that in this invisible, there was a big, blood-red word, danger, condensing on his head. Looking at Yi Junlin's sandbag-sized fist, Tong Wudi felt a little weak in his heart, and a stiff smile was squeezed on his face. Well, can we not? Yi Junlin showed a friendly smile. No. The next second, he punched directly. Fuck. Tong Wudi's scalp was numb, and he was about to withdraw and retreat. Suddenly, there was a loud bang. In the shocked eyes of everyone, Tong Wudi was punched and flew out, blood gushing out of his mouth. There was a deep fist mark on his chest, his sternum was broken, blood was flowing, and his whole half-saint body was on the verge of breaking. This was when Yi Junlin deliberately restrained his strength, otherwise he could really kill him with one punch. After all, one was a half-saint body and the other was a true saint body. The gap was huge. Even so, Tong Wudi was seriously injured and had no room for resistance. Boom! Tong Wudi fell on an immortal mountain, raising a huge mushroom cloud, scaring the surrounding immortal birds and beasts to flee. The elders who were watching the battle in secret were also stunned by this scene. This punch was so terrifying. Yi Junlin retracted his fist, brushed off the dust on his body, and smiled playfully. "We agreed in advance, this is what you asked for." Tong Wudi fell into the broken pit, blood flowing from the corner of his mouth. He struggled to get up, but fell back powerlessly, feeling extremely absurd. Why is it like this? In the end, he couldn't even take a punch from someone. Tong Wudi couldn't imagine that there was someone more evil than him in the world. It turned out that the other party was the protagonist of this era. "No, everyone said that I am the son of the heavenly Tao in the immortal world. How come I was beaten into this state? Where did the heavenly Tao go?" Watching the show. Thinking of this, Tong Wudi was so angry that he laughed, and the torn wound brought him a huge pain. But there was nothing he could do. This was all his own fault. In fact, Tong Wudi didn't know that even the heavenly Tao of the immortal realm was trembling in front of that man and didn't dare to show up. "Friend Yi, don't bother with him. Come on, continue drinking tea." Lu Wangshu hurriedly tried to smooth things over. Through this incident, he decided to treat Yi Junlin like a master. Everyone in the immortal courtyard who witnessed it with their own eyes found it difficult to recover for a long time. The strongest person in the immortal court in the past was defeated like this. Just get knocked out with one punch. It seems that the number one person in the immortal world is a real winner. At the same time, outside the territory, the blood source world. This is the world where the undead vampires live, and delicious blood is their indispensable food. Qingtian tribe. In an old manor. Bang! A crystal cup was smashed to the ground, and thick, bright red blood flowed all over the floor. The clan leader, Blood Nightmare, had his veins exposed and his face looked ugly as he said, "What did you say?" The plan failed. Boom! A terrifying holy power filled the surroundings, scaring all the clansmen into trembling with fear. Yes, all the members we sent out encountered unexpected events. A clan elder who came to report said with difficulty, suppressing the fear in his heart. Blood Nightmare's facial muscles were twitching, and the aura emanating from his whole body became more and more terrifying. The huge sense of oppression made all the clan elders present half kneeling on the ground, looking terrified and unable to breathe. "Trash, they're all trash. You can't even handle such a small thing." Blood Nightmare roared. He had previously boasted at the meeting of the 10 clans, claiming that the undead vampires could take over the immortal realm through stealth operations. However, reality slapped him in the face. In this case, things have to go in that direction. Contact the clan leaders of the major clans for me and tell them that we have something important to discuss. Blood Nightmare tried hard to regain his composure and said in a deep voice. "Yes, Patriarch. At this time, the immortal world does not know that the real storm is coming, which is directly related to the duel between the two superforces in the universe." Chapter 652, Conflicts Escalate. A few days later. In the vast starry sky, a mighty army quickly marched to the immortal realm. The aura of each of the strong men was terrifying, and any one of them could easily crush the immortal emperor. Because their cultivation was at the semi-saint level. Although the semi-saint was not as good as the real saint, it was also linked to the holy way, and it was a force that could not be ignored in the universe. At this time, it was unimaginable that a full 100,000 semi-saint level strong men were dispatched together, with the purpose of crushing a low-level immortal world. This approach was undoubtedly using a star destroyer to shoot a mosquito. It was so exaggerated, but for Juyu, it was very necessary. Because in the middle, there would inevitably be a hostile force to interfere. As expected, on the way to the immortal realm, this semi-saint level army was soon blocked by a group of monks from the divine court. They were responsible for stalking, and their purpose was to prevent creatures beyond the level of the immortal way from arbitrarily destroying the saint agreement and attacking the immortal realm or Kunlun realm. Seeing that this army of semi-saints from Juyu dared to attack the immortal and openly, they were shocked and angry and stepped forward to stop them immediately. This is the confidence of the staff of the divine court. "The divine court supervisor is here, stop coming." The white-haired old man who was a semi-saint took out a token to prove his identity and shouted. "Old thing, if you know what's good for you, get out of here. Don't block our way," a leading semi-saint shouted angrily. The white-haired old man looked ugly. According to the saint agreement, all parties are not allowed to send saints to interfere in the situation. Now you Juyu have sent so many semi-saints. It's obvious that you want to violate the treaty, right? Haha, since you said it was a saint agreement, then the constraints should be on the saints, so what does it have to do with the semi-saints? Brothers, don't you think so? The leading semi-saint grinned. That's right, all the Juyu monks echoed. The saint agreement specifically restricts the saints, so what does it have to do with us, the semi-saints? Of course, you can do whatever you want. Hearing this, the white-haired old man's eye muscles twitched wildly, and he was so angry that he couldn't even speak clearly. You are shameless. That's right, this is clearly a word game. And you still find such a poor excuse, it's too despicable. The companions behind him said angrily. HMPH, whatever you say, anyway, we are going to destroy this immortal world. The leading semi-saint sneered. Have you guys thought about the consequences? This is intensifying the conflict and escalating the situation. The white-haired old man gritted his teeth and said. At the same time, he secretly activated a jade slip. This is to shake people. So what, do you really think that I, Juyu, am afraid of your divine court? Anyway, we didn't violate the rules, don't make a big deal. If you know what's good for you, get out of here. After that, the semi-saint who led the army signaled the entire army to continue the attack. In an instant, 100,000 semi-saint level warriors were about to break through the defense line of the divine court monks in one fell swoop. Feeling the seriousness of the situation, the white-haired old man's eyes were fierce, and he simply went all out and shouted. Since you want to fight, then fight. After all, the immortal world has historical factors, which is very special in the eyes of the divine court's high-level officials. It is an important chess piece. If it is destroyed by the Nine Nether Alliance, then he, as the supervisor of this starry sky, will be fully responsible. Moreover, at this juncture, if they choose to retreat, it will also fall on the prestige and face of the divine court. Therefore, it is reasonable to bite the bullet and fight to the end until the external aid comes to rescue. Rumble. In a moment, a battle of semi-saints broke out in this starry sky. The terrifying energy airflow swept like a superstorm, and countless asteroids around it exploded into powder for a while. Even if the top immortal emperors stood outside and watched the show, they would probably be shocked to death by the wisp of breath that escaped. The news about the battle here soon spread to all forces. The entire universe was shaken, and countless creatures in the divine court were shocked. No one expected that Juyu would openly tear their faces and violate the established saint agreement. Where would the divine court put their face? Damn it, is the holy war going to break out? Juyu is a bunch of lunatics. I heard that they are not sending out real saints, but a group of semi-saints. Maybe things are not that bad. Hee, this is testing our bottom line. Is the semi-saint not in the category of the holy way? If we can send out the semi-saint today, we can send out the real saint tomorrow. What about the day after tomorrow? Yes, Juyu's move is tantamount to escalating the situation. It used to be a struggle at the level of the immortal way, but now it is gradually turning into the holy way. This is a dangerous signal. It is said that the divine court has sent people to negotiate, but Juyu's attitude is very tough and is still arguing, claiming that he has not violated the rules. Damn, so shameless. Obviously, the cultivators in the divine court camp all hate Juyu's shameless behavior. Over the years, thanks to the Saint Agreement, their attitude towards the Kunlun realm and the immortal realm has been limited to the clash between the immortal paths. Now Juyu can't hold back and is the first to break this rule, which means that cultivators above the semi-saint level can be dispatched in the future. I'm afraid that it will escalate and evolve into a war between saints. This is a Pandora's box. Once it's opened, it's hard to close it. Just as the public opinion was in an uproar, the fighting in the starry sky battlefield continued, and the scale was getting bigger and bigger. Because of the continuous reinforcement of the monks of the divine court, the Juyu army had a very difficult journey and fought extremely hard. It was even a long distance away from the immortal land. After all, the divine court would never let Juyu get what he wanted when things got to this point. At least the attitude had to be shown. Therefore, at least 70,000 to 80,000 of the 100,000 semi-saint troops sent by Juyu were killed during this period, and the casualties were tragic. Of course, the divine court was not feeling well either. The supervisors of many star fields died in the battle, the blood stained the starry sky, and their souls flew away. Fortunately, it was only limited to the semi-saints, so it was not so distressing. There was such a big commotion outside the domain, but the immortal land was still calm, and it had not yet noticed that a terrible crisis was approaching. Due to the blockade of the immortal court, it was difficult for the immortal land monks to leave, unless they passed through the special transmission channel of the immortal court, so this led to a very closed news, and they were unaware of the development of the outside world. Therefore, the truth lies in the hands of a few people in the immortal court, and Lu Wangshu is one of them. At this time, a magnificent palace in the sky. A secret conversation is taking place, and the information in the conversation is enough to shock the entire immortal world. You mean, Juyu has officially sent out a semi-saint army and will soon attack the immortal world? Lu Wangshu looked ugly. In front of him, there was an ancient bronze mirror, which reflected a phantom, with an unfathomable aura, and it was difficult to see the face clearly. The other party was an envoy from the Divine Court. He came to contact Lu Wangshu on behalf of the Divine Court. Through the amount of information he revealed, Lu Wangshu knew that such a big thing happened in the outside world. That's right, if the Divine Court hadn't intervened, your small immortal world would have been trampled by a group of semi-saints. The envoy sneered. Lu Wangshu's face was so gloomy that water was about to drip out. Even though he hated the Divine Court and knew that the Divine Court had abandoned the Kunlun realm in ancient times and was now plotting against the Kunlun realm, the Divine Court did help in this matter. Of course, in the eyes of the Divine Court, the immortal realm was a chess piece with special value used to discuss Juyu. The reason why he came forward to help was nothing more than for his own face. What do you mean? Just say it. Lu Wangshu took a deep breath and said in a deep voice. Island Master Lu, the Divine Court's high-level officials mean that during this period of time, some of the Tianjiao will be sent to protect the immortal realm and help you fight against foreign enemies. Of course, if necessary, the Divine Court will take away the star core of this planet to prevent it from falling into Juyu's hands. Hearing this, Lu Wangshu's forehead veins bulged, his teeth clenched, and he felt extremely aggrieved and resentful in his heart. This is obviously eating and taking. Every planet has a star core, which is the foundation of a world. The star core of Kunlun realm was polluted, which led to the decline of the overall environment. But the Divine Court wants to take away the star core of the immortal realm. This move is undoubtedly to make the immortal realm go to extinction. Sensing Lu Wangshu's emotional fluctuations, a sneer came from the mirror. Island Master Lu, why do you have to act like this? The Divine Court is willing to come forward, which is already a great kindness. If the immortal realm is still going to perish, why not hand over the star core to the Divine Court for safekeeping? It's better than falling into Juyu's hands. The envoy's tone was playful, and his eyes were a little contemptuous, looking at this now downtrodden and no longer glorious array genius. Chapter 652. The messenger was once a small cultivator in ancient times. At that time, if the saints did not come out, the immortal emperor was the top combat force, and Lu Wangshu was the strongest formation master in the heavens and the worlds at that time, and was crowned with the title of the formation master. In his eyes, Lu Wangshu at that time was so glorious, and his status was second only to the saints of that period. Later, when the Nine Nether Alliance attacked the Kunlun realm, Lu Wangshu arranged the Supreme Formation to divert the trouble, directly reverse the situation, and shock the entire universe, and his reputation was even greater than before. Even the Lord of the Divine Court had to treat this level of formation wizards with courtesy and dared not neglect them. A small figure like him could only look up to the other party. As a result, with the changes of the times, more and more strong people broke through the Holy Realm. For example, he grew from an unknown little cultivator to a genuine strong man in the Holy Realm, and was feared by all directions. However, the existence that he once looked up to is now standing still and has become an ordinary person who is not worth mentioning. The title of the Supreme Formation Master is obviously no longer applicable to the other party. Because Lu Wangshu is at most a pseudo-formation saint, and there are many formation saints stronger than him in this era in the Divine Court. Any one of them can crush Lu Wangshu. Simply put, it is because Lu Wangshu always stays in the Immortaland, which leads to his realm not keeping up and his formation level seriously lagging behind. Therefore, looking at this formation genius who was admired by thousands of people in the past, who has fallen to such a state, the messenger sighed in his heart, and also despised and ridiculed him. He felt that Lu Wangshu was too stupid, did not know how to adapt, and had to stick to a hopeless broken place to achieve an unrealistic goal, so that in the long years later, he wasted a lot of energy and time, which seriously delayed his future. You know, in that era, if the other party was willing to give up the Immortaland and join the Lord of the Divine Court in time, the treatment would definitely be very high, and he would be a leader in the eyes of countless array masters, with high power. Unfortunately, there is no if. Feeling the malice in the words of the messenger, Lu Wangshu clenched his teeth, and his heart was incomprehensible. Back then, he ignored the recruitment of the Divine Court and chose to defend the Kunlun realm to the death, just to restore the Kunlun realm one day. For so many years, he has been waiting until the seas dry up and the rocks crumble, and the earth and the sky are old. For this reason, he lost the opportunity for personal development and could only stay in this world and stay in his own way. He was extremely eager to see the day when the Kunlun realm returned to its peak. However, before that day came, the balance that had been maintained for many years was broken. A half-saint army headed straight for the Immortaland. When the Immortaland was destroyed, the Kunlun realm would also be involved in this storm. After all, the balance has been broken. Juyu can make the half-saint go down, and the divine court will naturally follow suit. What will the situation be like then? It's terrifying to think about it. I hope the divine court can do more. The immortal world is still very necessary to exist. Lu Wangshu, who was asking for help, spoke in an increasingly humble tone. The once glorious and unparalleled genius was now begging for help, hoping that the divine court could give the immortal world a way out. This world not only has countless lives, but also carries his expectations and efforts over the years. Just like the child he raised with his own hands, how could he bear to see the child being killed? The messenger didn't take it seriously at all and sneered, "Okay, Island Master Lu, don't try to trick me. Everything is a general trend. I advise you to be mentally prepared in advance. If the immortal world perishes, the divine court is still willing to take you in for the sake of the past." After that, the mirror flashed, and the messenger's figure disappeared. Lu Wangshu sat on the ground with a dejected face, and didn't say a word for a long time. It was difficult for him to accept this fact for a while. Ever since the undead vampires were eliminated, he had a bad feeling in his heart, but he didn't expect it to come true so soon. Hey, now we can only take it one step at a time. I hope the reinforcements sent by the divine court can be more reliable. After a long time, Lu Wangshu sighed deeply. In front of the semi-saint army, the great array of protection he painstakingly arranged would be easily torn apart like thin paper. It's not worth mentioning at all. In the days to come, the immortal world is still calm, and countless cultivators don't know that the outside world has become a mess. Because the immortal world is the fuse, Juyu and the divine court both sent semi-saint armies to fight each other, and the two sides fought until the sun and the moon were extinguished and the starry sky trembled. Just one day, the immortal world suddenly fell into a tremor inexplicably, followed by a wave of terrifying breath that made people's hearts palpitate, coming from the endless sky. Sizzle. The boundary wall was forcibly torn into holes, and groups of figures wearing different costumes emerged from it. The men had lightning-like eyes and arrogant faces, and the women had a strong aura and were domineering. Their cultivation was all at the semi-saint level. Boom! In an instant, deafening sounds spread throughout the 5 major immortal realms. In the sky, lightning and thunder roared, and the storms and rainstorms were sometimes bright and sometimes dark, alternating wildly between day and night, as if the world had completely collapsed. Because so many semi-saint level strongmen came at once, the immortal world could not bear this pressure, and even the way of heaven trembled and trembled with fear, so this series of bizarre celestial phenomena was triggered. What happened? Who are those guys who appeared in the sky? Fuck, so scary. ... This sudden change made the originally peaceful Immortaland boil. The creatures in the 5 major immortal realms felt their scalps tingle, and they looked at the powerful figures in the sky with horror, with an ominous premonition in their hearts. The immortal emperors sitting in various places were even more panicked, with deep fear in their eyes and a chill on their backs. Just because they were shocked to find that the cultivation level of each of these suddenly appearing outsiders was far higher than that of the immortal emperor. Immortal court. Lu Wangshu had a complicated expression inside. The people from the divine court are here. Chapter 654 Respect. This group of divine court monks from outside the domain were ordered to guard the immortal realm. Each of them is a semi-saint level strongman from the major worlds, and is a member of the Holy Tao forces. Any one of them can destroy any immortal civilization. At this time, they broke into the immortal realm together, which undoubtedly set off a huge wave. Countless immortal creatures were afraid and had a deep fear of the unknown power. Because everyone clearly felt that even the high and mighty immortal emperor was as weak as an ant in front of this group of outsiders. What is going on? Could it be that the extraterritorial demons have invaded? But when did the extraterritorial demons become so powerful? The immortals in the closed state saw an unknown creature that was more powerful than the immortal emperor for the first time. The first reaction was naturally to doubt life, and the feeling overturned the previous cognition. Haha, is this the immortal realm? It's still at the level of immortal Tao civilization. Such a backward and broken place can actually attract the attention of the divine court. I've never seen such a thing before. A cultivator from the wood spirit realm sneered, his eyes full of contempt. I've heard from my elders that this is a world that is deeply involved with the Kunlun realm. It is precisely because of this that it has a considerable strategic value. Another cultivator from the Tianyuan realm rubbed his chin and said with a tut. I've also heard of this history. The reason why Juyu is in a hurry to destroy the immortal realm is to avenge the original revenge. Humph, it's because of this broken place that the conflict between the Divine Court and Juyu has intensified. Now that we are asked to protect it, it's ridiculous. Look at the group of ants below. Their cultivation is so weak. I can kill more than half of them with just a breath. After this group of Divine Court cultivators descended into the immortal realm, their inner sense of superiority was almost bursting, and they felt that they were more noble than the creatures in the immortal realm. This feeling is like modern civilized humans going to a primitive tribe to see savages who eat raw meat and drink blood. Remember, we came here with a mission this time. The best result is to defend the immortal land and hit Juyu in the face. If it doesn't work, we can consider retreating. The one who spoke was a tall man wearing a purple python robe and a jade crown. He had his hands behind his back, his figure was slender and upright, his left eye was as blazing as the fiery red sun, and his right eye was as cold as the deep blue moon. He looked very magical, and there was a sense of oppression all over his body. This is a Tianzhao from the Shengwu realm, a recognized representative figure of the semi-saint level, Shangjiba. Hearing Shangjiba's words, the faces of all the cultivators behind him changed slightly, and they dared not talk back. The Divine Court governs all the heavens and worlds, so it is generally called the Divine Court realm. The same is true for Juyu. They all default to this name. And the Shengwu realm is the holy world ranked in the top 100 in the Divine Court realm, and the number of saints is very considerable. Among them, there are 9 strongest ones, known as the 9 martial saints. As for Shangjiba, he is the registered disciple of one of the martial saints. If nothing unexpected happens, he will become a saint in the near future. After all, only by becoming a saint can one gain a foothold in a holy world. It is precisely because of his background and strength that the monks accompanying him dare not offend him and are willing to obey his orders. Brother Shang is right. Our focus is to deal with the army sent by the 9 nether realm. The rest is not important. A handsome man with a green folding fan and a suave temperament standing side by side said with a smile. This is a genius from the beast control world, and he is also a big shot. His name is Yuan Hua. As his background suggests, he is best at beast control. He has successfully subdued 10 semi-saint level monsters as war pets before, and his combat powers should not be underestimated. The environment here is really bad. There is not even a little holy energy. Fortunately, I brought enough holy crystals to replenish the holy power in my body. The third person who spoke was a charming woman wearing a colorful long skirt and gloves made of silk. Her gestures were very elegant. Her name is Song Linlin. She is from the flower bud realm. She is quite famous in the semi-saint level. In terms of strength, she is second only to Shangjiba and Yuan Hua. Immortal Song, I wonder if we can have a few drinks together later. Yuan Hua was obviously interested in Song Linlin and said with a smile. Mr. Shang, how about we join? Song Linlin blinked her beautiful eyes and exhaled orchids. Yuan Hua's smile froze on his face in an instant, and he felt very embarrassed and unhappy. Damn, what do you mean? I invited you, but you invited him. You are obviously trying to embarrass me. Shangjiba didn't even look at the beauty next to him, and said coldly, no need. Oh, Song Linlin's eyes darkened, and she felt a little disappointed. Then she said to Yuan Hua beside her, Mr. Yuan, then I don't need it either. Okay. Yuan Hua's mouth twitched a few times, and he suppressed his anger and nodded with a very reluctant smile. In terms of background and strength, he and Song Linlin are basically on par, but unfortunately the other party values Shangjiba, who has a more promising future. The monks behind him saw it, and at this moment they tried to hold back their laughter, and they had already regarded Yuan Hua as a clown in their hearts. Yuan Hua was feeling unhappy and wanted to vent his anger, so he looked at the immortal court and shouted. Everyone inside is dead, right? Hurry up and get someone who can make the decision. Lu Wangshu quickly flew out of the immortal court, forced a smile and bowed, saying, I'm sorry for not welcoming you all. Are you the lord of the immortal court? Yuan Hua looked Lu Wangshu up and down, his eyes full of disdain. After all, in his eyes, Lu Wangshu was a figure of the immortal emperor level, and he was as small as an ant in front of a semi-saint. Well, almost. Lu Wangshu thought about it and smiled. Strictly speaking, he is not one at present, but he still vaguely admitted it due to the occasion. Wait, are you the formation master of the ancient times? Lu Taishang. Shangjiba's eyes changed and he asked hurriedly. Lu Wangshu smiled bitterly and said, I don't dare to be the formation master. That's all in the past. Now Lu is just an ordinary formation master. Hearing this, everyone looked strange, as if they were looking at a rare animal, staring closely at this formation genius who was no longer in glory. Although they were not in that era, they also learned some old stories through history books and elders. The other party was the first legendary figure to be called the Formation Master, and was also the culprit who once made the Nine Nether Realm lose face. The operations done in that battle are still textbook level. Now, after a long time, the legendary figure stood in front of them alive, and suddenly there was an indescribable feeling. As for the title of the Supreme Formation Master, it was no longer worthy of him. After knowing the other party's identity, Shang Jiba's attitude became much more respectful, and he clasped his fists and said solemnly, "Senior Lu, I have heard of your name for a long time." As someone who had heard rumors since he was a child, he still respected Lu Wangshu very much and did not dare to look down on him. At the very least, he was also a pseudo-formation saint, and his status was higher than most semi-saints. In terms of emotion and reason, he deserved such attention. Chapter 655, The Dark History of the Most Powerful Martial Saint. But not everyone is as big as Shang Jiba. Yuan Hua was a little surprised at first, and then looked contemptuous. In his opinion, Lu Wangshu was not even a semi-saint. He could be easily crushed to death with one finger. So what if he had been brilliant before? Isn't it still down and out now? Lu Wangshu was surprised to hear Shang Jiba call him Senior Lu. He was filled with emotion for a moment and had a good impression of this junior who understood etiquette. "Your Excellency, your words are serious. How can Mr. Lu be so virtuous? If you can, just call me fellow Taoist." Lu Wangshu didn't push his nose or face, knowing that the other party called him senior, it was all out of respect for him, and he could still distinguish the importance. "In this case, I will boldly call you a Taoist friend." "Well, I wonder what this Taoist friend's name is." The next Shang Jiba comes from the 70th ranked holy martial world in the Divine Court. His master is Panlong Martial Saint, one of the 9 great martial saints. Shang Jiba reported directly to his family, and his words were full of confidence. After all, his background is the strongest among the monks of the Divine Court. The world he is in is ranked high in the Divine Court, and he has a world-famous Saint Realm powerhouse as his backer. His starting point is definitely the envy of 99% of the semi-saint city. Holy Martial World, Panlong Martial Saint. Lu Wangshu was stunned for more than 10 seconds, and a strange look flashed in his eyes. "May I ask if your master's real name is Hus?" Shang Jiba was a little surprised. "How do you know? Did you and my master have a relationship before?" Panlong Martial Saint has a very high status in the holy martial arts world. No one dares to call him by his real name because it is a great disrespect to him. Therefore, over time, few people know his first name. Now, Lu Wangshu said the true name of Panlong Martial Saint, which surprised Shang Jiba, who was a registered disciple. Thinking that the other party came from ancient times, a sense of curiosity suddenly emerged in his heart. Lu Wangshu's thoughts couldn't help but go back to that era, and he felt very confused in his heart. At the beginning, the Kunlun realm was located in the 2nd place in the Divine Court. The 4 great saints were aloof and their status was unshakable. At the same time, it also attracted many admiring monks from outside the realm, including many leaders from all major worlds. He vaguely remembered that at that time, there was a martial arts idiot named Husai. In order to seek a more extreme body training method, he knelt down and worshipped in front of DTN's dojo for a full 100 years. His willpower impressed DTN, and he finally got a place to enter the dojo as a latent cultivator. Lu Wangshu still remembered that the other party's name was Panlong Wushan. He came from the world of immortal martial arts that was ranked 1,000 or so in the Divine Court. He was the strongest immortal emperor-level powerhouse in the world. Unexpectedly, after so many years, the former immortal martial world has been renamed the Holy Martial World, and the ranking has also gone from over 1,000 to the 70th place today. The status is completely different. At that time, the humble Panlong Martial Immortal who had knelt down and worshipped in the Dishin Dojo for hundreds of years was now the Panlong Martial Saint who shocked the heavens. As for the once glorious Kunlun realm, it has become a thing of the past. I am afraid that not even 10,000 people can enter it now. Thinking of this, Lu Wangshu felt particularly uncomfortable. I've heard of him before, he's quite famous. Faced with Shang Jiba's question, Lu Wangshu answered ambiguously. He would not be stupid enough to talk about other people's dark history in public, so he would naturally avoid the important things and ignore the light. After all, this kind of thing is not very honorable. Telling it will damage the other party's reputation. I see. Shang Jiba didn't think much about it. In his impression, Panlong Martial Saint had always been a tall and indomitable superpower. He was also the most prestigious among the 9 great martial saints. He was extremely honored to be his named disciple. As everyone knows, before he became a saint, he had an unseemly past. Hey, you, the majestic lord of the immortal court, don't you think it's appropriate to leave us, the reinforcements sent by the immortal court, out to dry? Yuan Hua took advantage of every opportunity and said angrily. Lu Wangshu's face was slightly dull, and he said with a sneer, "Don't blame me, I will take you there right now. Please forgive me if the reception in this small place is not good." After saying that, he led a large group of half-saints to the immortal courtyard. Seeing this group of uninvited guests, all the immortal officials and palace maids were frightened, and the atmosphere seemed particularly depressed and solemn. This group of divine monks were arrogant, their eyes full of contempt. There is a sense of déjà vu like a group of rich kids visiting the slums. Several elders appeared one after another and bowed their hands. "I've met you all." They had close contact with Lu Wangshu, so they were naturally vaccinated in advance, knowing that such a day would come. In fact, the scale and level of development of the immortal world are already at the pinnacle level of immortal civilization, but unfortunately the world has changed, and the outside world is in the era of the Holy Era. As for the immortal civilization, it's just a product of the old times. Yuan Hua's eyes rested on the creature with the dragon head and body, and his eyes suddenly lit up. Is this actually a 5-clawed golden dragon with pure blood? The immortal dragon emperor felt uncomfortable being looked at. He wanted to get angry but didn't have the right to do so he could only smile stiffly and said, "Young master has good eyesight." Yuan Hua was delighted to see Hunter. He came from the world of beast control, and most of his strength came from conquering war pets. Therefore, he had always been eager to conquer a powerful monster. At this time, seeing the 5-clawed golden dragon with pure blood, Yuan Hua would be lying if he said he was not excited, because this kind of beast has been classified as a mythical beast. Although it is currently in the immortal emperor realm, its potential is very huge. You can train him well in the future. Not to mention becoming a semi-saint, even becoming the strongest person in the holy realm is not impossible. And he may be able to rely on this pure-blooded golden dragon to become a super genius in the beast-taming world. Haha, I really found a treasure. Yuan Hua was ecstatic, and then pretended to cough a few times, and said in a deep voice, "I'll give you a chance to become my war pet. How about it? I promise to help you become a saint in the future." Hearing this, everyone looked strange. The immortal dragon emperor was startled, with veins on his forehead bulging, and he felt humiliated in his heart. He is the ancestor of the Golden Dragon clan after all, and he is well known. How can he become the war pet of an outside cultivator? "My lord, please don't make this joke." The immortal dragon emperor gritted his teeth and said while suppressing his anger. Yuan Hua raised his eyebrows. "I am a semi-saint, and I am willing to take you as a war pet. You old thing are still unwilling. No matter how noble your bloodline is, you are just an ant in my eyes. Do you think you have the right to refuse?" Boom! In an instant, a semi-saint level pressure enveloped him. The immortal dragon emperor instantly felt the pressure of the ancient sacred mountain on him. He half knelt on the ground with a plop. His bones in his body creaked and his heart almost stopped beating. He felt very depressed and uncomfortable. The sense of oppression from the other party was no weaker than the one brought to him by the previous court protection formation. There was no way. In front of the semi-saint, the immortal emperor was indeed like an ant. Chapter 656, Division of the Holy Realm. "Sir, please respect my friend's choice." Seeing this scene, Lu Wangshu was angry and anxious. He should have let his old friend hide. This is troublesome. Yuan Hua glanced at him and sneered. This young master is giving him a chance to rise to the top, instead of staying here to eat and wait for death, wasting this rare dragon bloodline in vain. Do you understand? While speaking, the semi-saint level pressure released was also faintly heading towards Lu Wangshu. This is to show his power. Enough. Accompanied by a low shout, a semi-saint level aura that was stronger than Yuan Hua dissipated. The immortal dragon emperor suddenly felt lighter and not so uncomfortable. It turned out that Shang Jiba couldn't stand it and stopped Yuan Hua's misbehavior. "Brother Shang, what do you mean by this?" Yuan Hua's face was ugly, and his eyes showed a strong fear. The other party's cultivation is higher than his. He is a strong man of the 10th level of the semi-saint realm. He is only one step away from becoming a saint. Moreover, he has accumulated more than many years of experience and is stronger than him. If the other party really wants to intervene, he really can't do anything. Shang Jiba said bluntly, "The Divine Court sent us here to guard the Immortal Land and resist the Nine Nether Alliance. As a result, you are bullying others here. What is your intention? Brother Shang, this is wrong. I just want to give him a chance. It's him who doesn't know how to raise his head. Yuan Hua said with a stiff face. HMPH, I don't want to follow you, but you still force me. Is this called giving a chance? The Immortal Dragon Emperor said angrily. He is the ancestor of the Golden Dragon clan and one of the top creatures in the Immortaland. Now he has to endure this kind of humiliation. Hee, Yuan Hua sneered. In his eyes, the Immortal Dragon Emperor had no reason to refuse. The so-called beast control technique is the same as that of a beast tamer. If they don't obey, you have to beat them until they obey, and then you can conclude a master-servant contract, and the matter is settled. If Shang Jiba hadn't suddenly appeared, he would have forced the Immortal Dragon Emperor to surrender. In short, this old dragon cannot be moved, just give me Shang a face. Shang Jiba was very strong, and his tone was full of irresistible power. He has an absolute leadership position in this team. This is the confidence brought by strength and background. Mr. Shang is so majestic. Song Linlin's eyes were shining, with a face full of admiration. Yuan Hua's face twitched, and his inner anger almost exploded, and his back teeth were about to be bitten to pieces. Grass, grass, grass. You dog, you have to ruin my good thing, right? At this moment, many cultivators in the team were gloating, wanting to see how Yuan Hua would respond next. Soon, Yuan Hua took a deep breath and said with a smile, since it has come to this, if I don't give Brother Shang face, it will appear that I am ungrateful. He was very sensible and knew that he could not confront the other party head-on, and could only avoid his sharp edge for now. But it did not mean that he would give up the goal of Immortal Dragon Emperor. Shang, you will leave this broken place sooner or later anyway, and then I will kill it back, and this pure-blooded five-clawed golden dragon will be in my pocket. Yuan Hua was making a wishful calculation in his heart. Seeing that the other party was very sensible, Shang Jiba's expression eased a little. His words were still very effective in this team. Thank you, young master. Immortal Dragon Emperor's heart was warmed, and he bowed gratefully. This is also for the sake of Lu Daoyu. Shang Jiba said. Lu Wangshu was very moved. This junior is really too good, and he must return this favor when he has the ability in the future. Everyone, the place in front is for reception. If you need anything, please feel free to tell me. Then, this group of divine court monks entered the banquet. Some talked to each other, some closed their eyes and meditated, and some said nothing. During this period, the immortal court did not give a special explanation for the disturbance caused by the outsider, and there was no way to block the news. After all, so many eyes saw it. The more this happened, the more curious the outside world became. Because everyone seemed to realize that the immortal court was deliberately hiding something from them. Isn't it said that the immortal realm is the most prosperous of all the heavens and worlds? How come a group of people who are more powerful than the immortal emperor appeared at this time? Who are they and why did they want to live in the immortal court? Many questions arose in everyone's mind. For a time, there were many different opinions and their beliefs collapsed. Damn, this wine is so hard to drink. How dare you use this kind of broken wine to entertain us? At the banquet, some monks began to feel dissatisfied and smashed the cups in their hands on the ground. Forget it, what kind of wine can be produced in this broken place? At best, it is just immortal wine. Someone advised. Their cultivation is at the level of semi-saints, and what they take into their bodies must be more or less related to the word, saint. Even if it is the top-level immortal wine, they will feel uncomfortable drinking it like a normal person drinking horse urine. No wonder they can't help but complain. Shang Jiba sat cross-legged, his face was majestic without anger. A charming figure came over and said with a smile, Mr. Shang, I have my own holy wine here, I want to drink it with you. The person who came was Song Linlin. Although this man ignored her, the more he did so, the more motivated she was. She didn't believe that she was so coquettish and so proactive, and the other party would remain indifferent. Shang Jiba said lightly, no need, drinking will delay things. He had to adjust his state to face the Nine Nether Alliance in the near future. This is a contest between half-saints and half-saints. Juyu also has powerful geniuses involved in this turmoil. Whoever performs well will get more military merit points. This contest is also an opportunity for him. He wants to kill more Juyu monks in exchange for more training resources. As long as he successfully breaks through and becomes a saint, his status in the holy martial world will undergo earth-shaking changes. The first and most intuitive thing is that he will be promoted from a registered disciple under Panlong martial saint to a formal disciple. From now on, even an ancient saint-level expert would not dare to kill him easily in the holy martial world. You know, when it comes to the holy realm, there are a total of 6 realms, namely True Saint, Heavenly Saint, Ancient Saint, Saint King, Saint Ancestor, and Creation Saint. And his master, Panlong Martial Saint, is the head of the 9 martial saints and is currently the strongest Saint King level being in the holy martial world. From this we can see how valuable Shang Jiba's status is. It is precisely because of the reputation of Panlong Martial Saint that the holy martial world can stand at the 70th position in the divine court. There are even rumors that Panlong Martial Saint may break through to the realm of Saint Ancestor. Once he succeeds, his status in the Saint Martial world will soar to the top 30. A holy ancestor is enough to protect a world forever. Snort. Seeing that Shang Jiba was very stubborn, Song Linlin was so angry that she stamped her feet and had no choice but to turn around and leave. The charm that she is proud of has repeatedly hit the wall in front of the other man, and she needs to find some confidence from other men. Immortal Song, I'll drink with you. Me, and me. Don't even argue with me. Seeing this, a large number of male monks swarmed away, vying to drink and flirt with Song Linlin. Song Linlin raised her snow-white chin, like a noble white swan, regaining her sense of superiority. See, I'm still very popular. She glanced at the back not far away and found that the other party didn't pay attention at all, and she suddenly became even more angry. Just as the banquet is going on here, Yuan Hua came outside secretly. He wanted to find out if there was any demon clan with greater potential in this immortal court, so that he could keep them all in his pocket. Then, we came to a place called the Palace of 10,000 Beasts, which was used for the battle pets and mounts of the major immortal emperors. With a sudden movement in his heart, he released his spiritual consciousness and enveloped it, taking in all the creatures inside. Tisk, that's right. There are so many monsters with good potential, but it's a pity that they have stopped here due to the backward world and environment. If you are taken out by me and trained well, you may be able to produce a few more powerful holy beasts in the future. Yuan Hua felt excited and felt that this trip was really worth it. For a beast master like him, this immortal world is an untapped treasure. Suddenly, he saw one of the young figures wearing overalls and a middle-parted head. His first reaction was that he almost thought he had seen it wrong. Until he confirmed the identity again and again, his eyes were so wide that they were about to burst, and a stream of boiling blood rushed to the top of his head. His head was about to explode, and he lost his voice in disbelief. Holy shit, that's the mythical beast Kunpeng. Chapter 657 Yuan Hua, Great Opportunity. Kunpeng, that's Kunpeng. The supreme king of the demon clan, with great growth potential. It is rumored that since the ancient war, the Kunpeng clan suffered heavy casualties, and there are only a few left. The remaining members were captured by the supreme of the 9 nether realm. In addition, there is no other one in the divine court realm. Now, in this backward little world, he actually witnessed a living Kunpeng with his own eyes, and with his perception, he could clearly feel the pure blood in the other party's body. This is no ordinary Kunpeng, this is a Kunpeng with the blood of the king, with a bright future. Yuan Hua was so excited that he felt it was a gift from heaven and a gift from fate. This is a great opportunity. Compared with this pure-blooded Kunpeng, the 5-clawed golden dragon in front is nothing. It's like the difference between gold and silver. This immortal land is a blessed land. It's so friendly to a beastmaster like me. Ha ha ha. Yuan Hua was so happy that he rushed over immediately. At this time, in the 10,000 Beasts Palace, all kinds of monsters were holding an exchange meeting. Some of them turned into human forms, and some kept their original bodies. They all had their own backgrounds, and their cultivation was basically around the level of the immortal venerable. The arrival of the monks from the divine court also alarmed them, causing them to not dare to run out without permission, fearing that they would cause unnecessary trouble. What do you think of the identities of those outsiders? How come their cultivation is stronger than that of the immortal emperor? Yes, my master is the Jade Spirit Immortal Emperor. I thought he was very strong, but when I saw those outsiders, I suddenly felt as small as an ant. They don't look particularly friendly. I saw that our Lu Taishang was smiling and didn't dare to offend them. Alas, perhaps all the creatures in our immortal world have been kept in the dark all along, and we don't know whether this is a blessing or a curse. The monsters that served as mounts or war pets gathered together to discuss, feeling worried. After all, they are all part of the immortal world, and they all prosper and suffer together. They used to be proud of the immortal world, and they followed their respective masters to resist the invasion of the outside demons, so in their cognition, the immortal world is actually not bad. However, a group of outsiders with unknown origins came here with a supreme attitude, and even the leaders of the immortal court were respectful. This scene really shocked them, and even their previous cognition was overturned. Everyone was keenly aware that the immortal world might usher in an unprecedented upheaval. What are you afraid of? If the sky falls, my master will support it. My master is the most powerful one. He solved the previous immortal court crisis. The speaker was a young man wearing suspenders and a middle-parted hair, with his arms folded and his spirits high. For this young man, the surrounding demons dared not offend him, and they looked like they were led by him. After all, the opponent's strength was not only the strongest here, but even the master behind him was the strongest in the immortal world. He had saved the immortal court before, and he was a well-deserved savior. For this reason, they had to regard this young man as the boss. Master Kun, although that is the case, they are numerous and powerful. I think it is difficult for Master Yi too. A short man with shifty eyes said with difficulty. His true form is an immortal eating rat, which feeds on immortals. Although he is small, he ranks second in the 10,000 Beasts Palace and is the leader of the 12 Zodiac warriors appointed by the immortal court. The reason why he ranks second is because this young man has come. Not long after the young man came in, he started a big battle and beat all the 12 Zodiac warriors, including him, so he had to give up his position as the boss of the 10,000 Beasts Palace. Huh, I think you, a stinky rat, are itching for a beating. Akun raised his eyebrows, clenched his fists, and the blood in his body rolled like a torrent, like a human-shaped beast that shook the world. He hated it most in his life, that someone looked down on his master. In his mind, his master is the strongest person in the world. What about those foreign cultivators? They are not enough for his master to beat with one hand. Seeing the young man waving his fists, Rat Tornado was so scared that his heart trembled wildly and he almost peed his ass. He had experienced the power of the opponent's fist, and one punch could knock the shit out of him. He was simply invincible in the same realm. Even Rat Whirlwind felt that although Akun was not an immortal emperor, he had the strength to fight against an immortal emperor. Master Kun, I was wrong, I was so mean. Don't bother with me. Rat Whirlwind knelt on the ground and slapped himself in the face. The monsters looked strange, with a little pity in their eyes. HMPH, you know what's good for you. If you dare to talk nonsense again, I will punch you into a pulp. Akun waved his fist and threatened. Yes, I know I was wrong. Rat Whirlwind sweated and thought to himself that he was lucky. At this moment, a figure as graceful as a startled swan appeared in the center of the field, holding a folding fan in his hand and opening it, fanning it gently, with a perverted smile on the corner of his mouth, staring at Akun with bright eyes. You, who are you? The faces of the monsters suddenly changed, and a strong sense of vigilance emerged in their hearts. There are so many strong men here, but none of them noticed how the other party appeared. Shu Xuanfeng said with a cold face, who are you? The 10,000 Beasts Palace does not allow outsiders to come and go. He behaved very humbly in front of Akun, but he was a different person in front of others. After all, strictly speaking, the 10,000 Beasts Palace is the territory given to him by the immortal court. If Akun hadn't convinced him and had a strong background, he wouldn't have acted like a grandson and was submissive. Now, seeing an outsider breaking in without permission, Rat Whirlwind directly took a tough stance. You little mouse, dare you talk to me like this? Yuan Hua smiled playfully, exuding a semi-saint level aura. Boom, in an instant, the 10,000 Beasts Palace was shrouded in the pressure of a semi-saint. Ah, the monsters knelt on the ground one after another, their eyes showing fear. Rat Whirlwind was completely pissed, his head was buzzing. Damn, could it be that the other party was one of the group of foreign cultivators? This time he kicked the iron plate. This senior, I didn't mean to offend you, please have mercy. Rat Whirlwind begged for mercy. It's hard to be tough once, but in the end I found that I couldn't afford to offend him at all. Who understands this feeling? Yuan Hua sneered, if it weren't for your decent qualifications, you would have died long ago. Why would you beg for mercy here? He had a sharp eye and could see that the true form of Rat Whirlwind was a rare immortal devouring rat, but this was only the saying of this world. Outside the domain, this race had long been renamed as Saint Devouring Rat. That's right, it feeds on saints. You can imagine how terrible this race is. That's why Yuan Hua, who despises life so much, would be willing to spare Rat Whirlwind's life. Because he also wanted to catch it back and train it well, maybe there would be a chance to transform it into a saint-devouring rat, then he would make a fortune. But right now, the thing that attracted him the most was the boy. Akun's heart was shaking wildly. It was the first time he felt this kind of oppression up close. The most terrifying thing was that the other party seemed to be coming for him, staring at him like a pervert. You, don't mess around. I have a master. My master is so powerful. He is the strongest in the immortal world. Akun shouted, suppressing his fear. When Yuanhua heard this, he almost died of laughter on the spot. The so-called strongest person in the immortal world is still immortal, isn't he? Not to mention one, even if there are 10,000, they can't beat a finger of this half-saint. Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Tabula below article thumbnail. 300 by 250 feet. Placement. Below article thumbnail 300 by 250 feet. Target _type. Mix. Chapter 657. Haha, now I will give you a chance to follow me, so that you can be as powerful as me in the future, how about that? Yuanhua said with a smile. He is very confident in his own strength. After all, he is a semi-saint level cultivator and is above the world. As long as he draws a big pie and fools the natives who have never seen the world, isn't it easy? What? All the demons were shocked. They did not expect that this powerful person from outside the territory would make such a request. For a moment, they all showed excited expressions. After all, the other party is more powerful than the immortal emperor. At first glance, it seems to be the existence of a big force. If they can follow them, their future achievements will be even higher. It is definitely not as simple as stopping at the realm of the immortal lord. Who can imagine? Akun shook his head like a rattle and refused without hesitation. I don't want it. I will follow the master all my life. The master is the most powerful. Hearing this, Yuanhua's expression suddenly froze, and then was replaced by viciousness. You are a frog in the well, how do you know what absolute power is? The so-called master in your eyes is nothing more than an ant that I can kill with a snap of my fingers. Letting you follow me is to give you face. Since you are so ignorant, then I will let you surrender to me. Yuanhua sneered. As he spoke, he raised his hand and slapped the young man in front of him to the ground. He muttered a spell silently in his mouth and made a hand seal with his other hand. A master-servant contract appeared in the air, shining with blazing light. Now let go of your sea of consciousness and sign a contract. You will be my battle pet from now on. Don't worry, I will train you well and won't treat you badly. Yuanhua said solemnly. This is quite true. After all, Akun is a pure-blooded divine beast Kunpeng. His bloodline concentration is the highest in history. He has huge potential and cultivation value. If it falls into the hands of any big force, it will be the kind that will be demanded. Therefore, Yuanhua naturally wants to pin his future on Akun. Belong to the glory of both, and the loss of both. At this moment, Akun, who was being mentally oppressed, had a face full of pain, and his brain almost exploded. The other party's method of forcing him was 100 times more powerful than the Sakyamuni monk who first converted him. I'm afraid that after a while, he will have to agree even if he doesn't agree. Seeing this scene, the demons were frightened and at a loss. If you dare to do this to me, my master will never let you go. Akun, his head covered in sweat with blue veins exposed, screamed while squeezing his neck. Ha 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 ha. Yuanhua raised his head and laughed, then looked at the young man and said jokingly, if he had more sense, I could spare his life. After all, he was the one who brought you to me. For this reason, master, you have to thank him, but if he doesn't appreciate it, he will die. At the end of the sentence, his tone was full of awe-inspiring murderous intent. Rat Tornado took advantage of this gap, gritted his teeth, took out the token, and injected immortal power to activate the palace-protecting formation of the 10,000 Beasts Palace. Boom! A 9th-grade Tao formation suddenly unfolded above, and a huge beam of colorful light erupted from the top of the 10,000 Beasts Palace. In an instant, the strange movement here was also noticed by everyone in the immortal courtyard. You stinky rat, you dare to secretly play tricks behind my back. You want to die, don't you? Yuanhua glanced sideways at the rat whirlwind who was making small moves, his eyes cold and cold. Just one look made rat whirlwind feel as if he had fallen into boundless purgatory, his whole body was filled with chills, and his soul was about to collapse. Rat Tornado collapsed to the ground, it could be said that he was scared to death. You are trying to harm me just by relying on this rubbish formation. Yuanhua raised his head and looked at the big formation above him, with a contemptuous smile on his lips. Phew, he blew a breath, mixed with some rhyme of the holy way, and bombarded the formation. In an instant, the 9th-grade Taoist formation was instantly annihilated, and the roof of the 10,000 Beasts Palace collapsed. Oh my god! The demons were so frightened that their scalps were numb and they knelt on the ground trembling. That was a 9th-grade Tao formation that could deal with a top immortal emperor, and now it was blown out in one breath. It's so scary. At the critical moment, a familiar voice sounded in panic. Stop. Stop it. Lu Wangshu hurried over and saw Yuan Hua acting recklessly, feeling angry and anxious inside. This damn guy actually attacked Yi Xiaoyu's mount. Lu, Mrs. Lu, Xu Xuanfeng came back to his senses from his confusion, and his eyes couldn't help but light up. He took the risk to activate the palace protection formation, and his purpose was to attract the attention of more people in Immortal Court. In this way, things can turn around. Seeing Lu Wangshu coming towards him, Yuan Hua's eyes flashed with a cold light, and he shouted coldly, "Get out! Don't ruin my good deeds." The sound contained huge power, causing Lu Huang to vomit blood. He flew backwards and hit a jade pillar carved with dragons and phoenixes surrounding it. The jade pillar couldn't bear the pressure and cracked into pieces. Lu Wangshu endured the pain, and a boiling anger surged into his heart. He gritted his teeth and said, "It's too much to bully others, please don't go too far." HMPH, so what if I bully you? If that person hadn't helped you before, I would have taken the old dragon into my hands. Yuan Hua looked disdainful and did not take the Lord of the Immortal Court seriously at all. In that case, then I have no choice but. Lu Wangshu gritted his teeth and was about to activate the protective formation that had just been repaired a while ago. Right now, only the Gote formation can pose a threat to this misbehaving guy. Suddenly, a shocking questioning voice sounded, with a bit of majesty, "Mr. Yuan, what do you mean? Does what Shang said just now count?" At the critical moment, Shang Jiba rushed over after hearing the news. When he saw what Yuan Hua did, a flash of displeasure flashed in his eyes. This is to treat his words as fart. You again. Yuan Hua was angry. He was forced to make concessions before, but this time he didn't want to make concessions again, fearing that he would miss this opportunity. After all, this kunpeng is so rare that it might be caught by other foreign cultivators who know the goods. He has to strike first. Brother Shang, I am not giving you face. Have you forgotten the promise you made before? Yuan Hua deliberately guided. What? Shang Jiba raised his eyebrows. I can give you a face for not fighting with the old dragon before, but it's limited to that time. If Brother Shang still insists on intervening this time, it's unreasonable anyway. Yuan Hua argued. Through these days of contact, he knew that Shang Jiba was a righteous man who kept his word, but he also cared about his face and insisted on his principles, so he wanted to use this as a breakthrough to make the other party stop. Hearing this, Shang Jiba was choked immediately. It seemed to be the truth. But it was unreasonable to ignore it. Friend Lu, look, he looked at another person. Lu Wangshu knew what Shang Jiba meant. He wanted him to suffer a proper loss, so as to satisfy Yuan Hua's appetite. But the problem is that this is really not something he can decide. Friend Shang, please let him stop quickly, the owner of this mount is not easy to mess with. Lu Wangshu said anxiously. Oh, Shang Jiba's eyes were strange, he could hear another meaning from this sentence. Could it be that in this immortal world, there are still strong people who can match Yuan Hua's level? It shouldn't be. After all, Yuan Hua is at least a semi-saint 9th level existence, and his strength is second only to him in this team. What kind of native can have such weight? Yuan Hua sneered. Don't scare people, is there still a decent strong man in your broken place? If he dares to come, this young master will make him kneel down and kowtow for mercy. Suddenly, a clear and iron-like voice sounded in everyone's ears from far to near. Really, I advise you to kneel down quickly, maybe I can let you die quickly. On the field, a handsome young man with silver-white long hair to the waist appeared, looking at Yuan Hua coldly, as if looking at a cold corpse. Chapter 659. Is this guy going to be in trouble? Master, save me! A kun shouted quickly as if he saw the great savior. Yuan Hua was stunned at first, then laughed angrily and said, so you are his master. If you hid like a turtle, maybe I could let you go, but you came here to provoke me and treated me badly. Disrespectful, do you know that this is a recipe for death? With that said, Yuan Hua first threw Ah Kun aside, cast a spell to imprison him, and then approached him with a murderous look on his face. At the same time, he released a semi-saint level pressure from his whole body, overwhelming Yi Junlin. He first wants to use his power to suppress others and see Yi Junlin get into trouble. But the strange thing is that, facing the pressure of the semi-saint level, Yi Junlin stood steadily like a normal person, with a contemptuous smile on his lips. What's going on? Yuan Hua felt something was wrong and stopped subconsciously, staring at the silver-haired young man with alert eyes. Being able to withstand his pressure easily shows that the opponent is at the same level as him. In this small immortaland, a semi-saint was actually born. Shang Jiba was also surprised. He stared at Yi Junlin with burning eyes, as if he wanted to see some clues from it. Judging from his intuition, the opponent is obviously not simple, and the aura on his body is very strange. His cultivation level is obviously that of an immortal emperor, but his body can withstand Yuan Hua's semi-saint level pressure. Could it be that this person has practiced some secret method to hide his cultivation level, and then deliberately revealed the immortal emperor's cultivation level? If this is the case, then everything will be explained. Thinking of this possibility, Shang Jiba's eyes suddenly looked different when he looked at Yi Junlin. What a good trick, even he was concealed. The main thing is, given the environment of the immortal world, a semi-saint can actually be born. This is like hatching a dragon out of a pile of snake eggs, full of miracles. Little friend Yi, if you find it troublesome, I can also help you and teach this arrogant guy a lesson. Lu Wangshu said secretly. If he hadn't been afraid of offending the army of semi-saints from Shenting, he would have used the Gote formation to take action. After all, it was more than enough to rely on the Gote formation to deal with a half-saint. Now that the situation has reached a point where there is no room for maneuver, he will definitely support Yi Junlin as soon as possible. This is the greatest hope for the rise of Kunlun realm. Old Lu, just watch from the side. I can handle this matter. But having said that, you are too shameless to endure being so angry. If you had called me earlier, I would have done everything for you. You settled it, but why did you let him be so arrogant? Yi Junlin said angrily. Previously, this group of divine monks came to the immortal world forcefully and made a lot of noise. However, Lu Wangshu informed him in advance that they were all his own, so he did not take it too seriously and continued to fish on his own by a lake, living a leisurely and undisciplined life. Unexpectedly, this group of monks from the divine court were so restless that someone would dare to take action against his mount. This move is undoubtedly touching his reverse scale. It's hard to vent your anger without killing people. In the eyes of the majority of monks in the immortal world, these outsiders are all awesome and unfathomable, but in the eyes of Yi Junlin, they are just existences that can be destroyed with the raising of a hand. Nothing to be afraid of. A bitter smile appeared on Lu Wangshu's lips, purely because Yi Junlin was saying something beautiful. He has also seen Yi Junlin's strength and knows that Yi Junlin is very capable, but no matter how capable he is, there is a limit, right? Can you defeat this large group of semi-saint level experts? Just thinking about it makes me feel unrealistic. Yuan Hua said coldly. It does surprise me that there is a talented person like you in this poor place, but you who come from a small place have no idea how big the outside world is. There are some people you are destined to not be able to offend. Yi Junlin sneered and said, stop putting gold on your face. I'll punch you later and you'll be honest. Tutu, how dare you underestimate me again and again, I will make you pay a heavy price. With that said, Yuan Hua made a hand seal with his hands, and streams of light of different colors flew out of the animal storage bag. Transformed into the original body. Roar! 10 powerful semi-holy beasts appeared in the sky above the immortal courtyard with surging energy and blood, and the combined pressure was as vast as the ocean. In an instant, an inherently terrifying vision, red lightning crisscrosses, creating a thrilling and terrifying scene. These 10 ferocious beasts look completely different. Some look like flying scorpions with wings, some look like 8-armed diamonds with sharp fangs, and some have lion heads and leopard bodies with dark purple flames burning all over their bodies. The cultivation level of each one is between the 7th and 8th levels of semi-saints. They are all fierce in combat and possess innate magical powers. These are battle pets carefully cultivated by Yuan Hua, and they are also a great help to him. Such an astonishing movement naturally attracted countless gazes. The group of Shenting monks who were still at the banquet rushed over when they saw this scene, their faces full of shock. Look, Mr. Yuan actually dispatched his 10 battle pets at once. Who is this to deal with? Looking at this posture, it seems to be to deal with that silver-haired young man. Hey, who is this man? It seems we don't have such a character in our team. I just heard the ants here discussing, saying that the man is the most powerful person in the immortal world, and they all call him the Immortal Master. What the hell? The most powerful person in the immortal world? Is it worthy for Mr. Yuan to engage in such a big battle? That's right, I can crush this kind of thing with just one finger. After learning the cause of the incident, everyone felt that it was outrageous and felt that Yuan Hua was making a fuss out of a molehill. They simply do not believe that there can be a powerful being in this ignorant and backward world. This guy surnamed Yuan is really worthless. To deal with a mere immortal emperor-level ant, he actually used 10 half-saint level war pets. This pattern is too small. Fortunately, I didn't take a fancy to him, otherwise I would have been laughed to death. Song Linlin looked at Yuan Hua's unfolding posture, with a look of disdain on her charming face. Immediately, he looked at the tall and majestic handsome man beside him, and said with a smile, "Mr. Shang, are you coming to see the fun too?" The strange thing is, Shang Jiba ignored her and stared straight at the two figures in front of him, with an expression of surprise and uncertainty on his face, as if he had seen a scene that was difficult to understand in his life. His eyes have been very strange since he was a child. They are born with different pupils, and their function is to be able to see whether everyone is good or bad at a specific moment. What surprised him at the moment was that Yi Junlin, facing the threat of 10 semi-holy beasts, showed no sign of danger at all. On the other hand, above Yuan Hua's head, there was a big word, danger, floating as red as blood. This is a treatment only given to people who are about to die. Is this thing going to be cold? Shang Jiba murmured in disbelief. Chapter 660, One Punch One. Boy, are you scared? This is the gap between you and me. Summoning 10 semi-saint level war pets, Yuan Hua felt a strong confidence in his heart and sneered. Roar! The 10 beasts roared, and the mighty sound waves filled the sky above the immortal court, shaking countless people's eardrums and headaches. Yi Junlin raised his eyebrows. Just these 10 little Kurami, I'll punch them one by one. Yuan Hua didn't understand what the little Kurami meant, but he understood the following words. One punch one by one. Who do you think you are? You should know that my 10 war pets once galloped across the starry sky, and each of them swallowed 3-digit semi-saint level strongmen. For a native like you who came from a small world, it's not enough to fill the gaps in my teeth. How dare you say that you can punch one by one? Flying scorpion, go, don't let him die too easily, I want to see him howling in pain, Yuan Hua said with a grim smile. After receiving the order, the huge creature with wings on its back, which looked like a metal scorpion, swooped down towards Yi Junlin with great momentum. Boom boom boom, the overwhelming sense of oppression seemed to be real, and every inch of the void was collapsing. That's the flying demon scorpion. If it is stung by its poison hook, even a top semi-saint will be at risk of falling. In the crowd, a cultivator who knew the origin exclaimed. Swish, a poison hook with unparalleled energy was about to penetrate Yi Junlin's body. Ding, the host is detected to be attacked by a semi-saint 9th level enemy, and now the passive effect of being stronger when encountering a strong enemy is triggered, and the cultivation of the 10th level of the semi-saint is obtained. Closing square bracket. The system prompt sounded. The aura of the 10th level cultivation of the semi-saint burst out from Yi Junlin. He raised his hand lightly and grabbed it directly, and directly grasped the poison hook stabbed by the flying demon scorpion. The next second, in front of countless people's incredible gazes, he suddenly pulled the entire huge body of the flying scorpion over, and then clenched his fist and smashed it hard on the head. Bang! An infinite fist force burst out instantly, and the huge head of the flying scorpion exploded like a watermelon. The headless body fell heavily on the ground, shaking the entire immortal court. Hiss! The sound of gasps continued, and the expressions on everyone's faces were extremely shocked. Damn! Solved with one punch. Yuan Hua's eyes almost burst, his chest seemed to be hit by a heavy hammer, a mouthful of blood rushed to his throat, and then spit it out with a flushed face. His eyes were unbelievable. Your cultivation. I didn't expect that there was actually a top half-saint in the immortal world. Regarding this point, the divine court had no information about this. Poor his flying scorpion, became a victim. Among the 10 battle pets he cultivated, the flying demon scorpion was also of the top level, especially the most lethal poison hook, which killed many half-saints. As a result, he died at the hands of the opponent. This made Yuan Hua regret it. If he had known Yi Junlin's true realm earlier, he would not have gotten to this point. Yi Junlin sneered, I told you, it's just a punch, why don't you believe it? For reaching the 10th level of the half-saint, he had no ripples in his heart. After all, his body was that of a true saint, which was not comparable to that of a half-saint. So, this benefit was not worth mentioning. Tell me, how do you want to die? Yi Junlin walked over with a sneer on his lips. Yuan Hua was so scared that his back felt cold, and he felt that this silver-haired young man was weird everywhere. Go, go, kill him. In a hurry, Yuan Hua screamed hysterically, and because of his emotional loss of control, his body was shaking visibly. Roar! The remaining 9-headed pets roared and launched an attack on Yi Junlin. Some of them spewed out magic flames that burned the sky, some of them shot out energy beams that could penetrate the stars, and some flapped their wings to release extreme cold storms. The combined attack was enough to deal with a top semi-saint. But Yi Junlin was calm and unhurried. His body took on these terrifying attacks and walked leisurely. It seemed that these attacks fell on him like drizzle. This scene made everyone dumbfounded. Shang Jiba was stunned and almost thought he was hallucinating. Even with his strength, he dared not be careless in the face of the joint attack of the 9-headed beasts. He had to use his body protection magic to resist. As a result, the opponent directly resisted with his body. Shang Jiba was shocked because he couldn't do this at all. Is this still a semi-saint level body? At this time, Yi Junlin came to a fierce beast with a lion's head and a leopard's body. It was called the Purple Flame Mad Lion, and it was the strongest pet in Yuan Hua's hand. Looking at the tiny human in front of him, the Purple Flame Mad Lion's eyes showed a trace of fear. It felt the crisis of death. Yi Junlin punched out without hesitation, hammering the Purple Flame Mad Lion to death on the ground. The other 9 fierce beasts were also treated equally. Puff puff puff. With the successive deaths of the pets, Yuan Hua, who was backlashed, vomited blood continuously, like a small fountain. His face was as pale as paper, his breath was weak, and he staggered to the ground. Looking at the silver-haired figure standing in front of him, his heart was shrouded in a huge fear. Really 1 punch each. The most shocked were the group of Divine Court monks. They couldn't imagine that there were such powerful people in this world. Wow, that young man is so fierce. Song Linlin's beautiful eyes widened, and an indescribable emotion emerged. Shang Jiba's mood can no longer be described in words. Ask yourself, if it were him, he would not be able to do this. His strength is indeed stronger than Yuan Hua, but it is not easy to defeat the other party, and it must be done with some effort. How can he be like Yi Junlin, who was calm and composed throughout the whole process and solved it with a wave of his fist? Wait, even if a half-saint has a strong body, his physical body cannot reach this incredible level. The only explanation is that he has condensed the body of a true saint in advance. Thinking of this possibility, Shang Jiba's breathing became rapid. This is the real physical body becoming a saint. His master Panlong Wusheng once said that there is a special group of people who can condense a saint body in advance. The premise is that the laws of the environment they are in are flawed, which makes it impossible to break through to become a saint in cultivation, but because of their extraordinary talent, they can only become saints partially, that is, the physical body. But this possibility is extremely small. After all, with the development of the times, the entire universe has entered the era of the Holy Tao. Those who can become saints have already become saints. Why should we limit ourselves to becoming saints in the flesh? Seeing Yi Junlin's performance, Shang Jiba felt that it was in line with what his master said, and his heart was suddenly shocked. My fellow Taoist, Yuan is not offending you unintentionally. I will do my best to give you any compensation you want. Yuan Hua swallowed hard and forced a smile. If I kill you, your things will be mine. Isn't that good? Yi Junlin came to him and sneered. Yuan Hua's heart sank to the bottom of the valley, and he said fiercely, I am a cultivator sent by the Divine Court to help you. If you dare to kill me, you will offend the Divine Court. Everyone, this person ignores the authority of the Divine Court. Let's join forces to take him down. Yuan Hua turned his head and shouted to a large group of Divine Court cultivators in the distance, his words full of indignation and anxiety. In order to survive and to make Yi Junlin have some concerns, he did not hesitate to incite emotions and drag others into the water. A large group of Divine Court monks changed their faces slightly, and looked at Yi Junlin with 7 points of fear and 3 points of hostility. No matter what, Yuan Hua was on their side. If he was killed by Yi Junlin, where would their face be? However, Yi Junlin showed his powerful strength, which shocked them for a while and made them dare not act rashly. Seeing this scene, Yuan Hua was so angry that he cursed in his heart, and quickly asked Shang Jiba for help. Brother Shang, save me. We are together. He believed that with the other party's appeal, the Divine Court monks present would definitely besiege Yi Junlin. This idiot. Shang Jiba's face was ugly. When they realized that Yi Junlin was a freak who became a saint in the flesh, even if they were in large numbers, they could not take any advantage. For a guy who was seeking death, it was not worth it to make a river of blood. Thoughts turned wildly. Finally, Shang Jiba gritted his teeth, and a ruthless look flashed in his eyes. Swish! He dodged and came to Yuan Hua. In Yuan Hua's unbelievable eyes, he stepped hard with one foot. With a bang, his chest sunken and bleeding. Yuan Hua, who was already weak, was unable to resist and watched this scene happen. Blood flowed from the corners of Yuan Hua's mouth, his pupils gradually blurred, his head tilted and fell to the ground, and soon lost vital signs. He died. Warm reminder. If you find that clicking the next page will force you to jump to other websites, please use the chapter error, or contact us at the bottom to let us know. We will deal with it as soon as possible. Thank you for your understanding. Chapter 661 Praising Each Other. Yuan Hua never dreamed that he would die in a small, backward world, and that he would be killed by the people around him. Everyone was stunned. What's going on? Especially the Shenting monks, they never expected that Shang Jiba would finally take action and kill Yuan Hua. Yi Junlin raised his eyebrows, feeling a little surprised. Aren't you two together? Shang Jiba forced a smile and said, fellow Taoist, don't get me wrong. Although we are in the same camp, we are not from the same camp. What's more, he was wrong in the first place, so he deserves to die. He immediately drew a line and made his stance clear. After all, for the sake of a cancer in the team, offending a strong man who has become a saint in the body, thus triggering a larger-scale bloody conflict, is a thing that outweighs the gains and losses. Seeing that the other party was so sensible, Yi Junlin looked strange. I wanted to go on a killing spree, and you ended up trying to do this with me. Not interesting. Seeing Yi Junlin's resentful look, Shang Jiba felt a chill in his heart, and he couldn't help but have a thought in his mind. Damn, he really wants to beat us all by himself, right? This madman. Fellow Taoists, Yuan Hua has been killed on the spot by Shang for disturbing military discipline. This matter has nothing to do with you. You can rest assured when he returns. Shang Jiba said in a deep voice. The monks had different expressions and fell into silence. Although this operation prohibits killing each other, Shang Jiba has a very tough background. Besides, this matter has nothing to do with them, and they are not afraid of being implicated. They can just go back and clear up the relationship. For a while, no one stood up to object. Seeing this, Shang Jiba breathed a sigh of relief secretly. Fortunately, the situation was stabilized. I don't know your surname. Seeing what the man in purple robe did, Yi Junlin's eyes flashed with appreciation, and he raised his hands and asked. The next thing is Jiba. What did you say your name was? Shang Jiba. Seeing the wonderful expression on Yi Junlin's face, Shang Jiba felt very puzzled, thinking, is my name so extraordinary? When I hear this name, it sounds amazing. Yi Junlin paused slightly and sighed from the bottom of his heart. Thank you fellow Taoist for the compliment. Shang Jiba smiled, feeling a good feeling in his heart. Who doesn't like to hear good words? What's more, a genius who has become a saint in the flesh praised him to his face. It's very face-saving. My surname is Yi and my first name is Junlin. Yi Junlin introduced himself. Fellow Taoist Yi, your name is also very good. Junlin Tianxia, a good name. No, it's not as simple and crude as your Jiba. Ha ha ha. The two of them talked about each other's business, each laughed heartily, and they both liked each other much more. Lu Wangshu secretly sweated, and was shocked that Yi Junlin's cultivation was actually at the semi-sage level. No wonder he had behaved so outrageously before. Owner. Kun ran over happily, with a look of pride on his face. He knew that his master was the most powerful. My dear, Master Kun is really not exaggerating. This Yi Shenju is simply invincible. Everyone has to sell his face. Rat Whirlwind smacked his tongue, his heart full of awe. The demons nodded, their eyes full of admiration. Previously, in their eyes, the group of outside monks were all very powerful, and even the usually aloof immortal emperor was as insignificant as an ant. As a result, the more powerful character is on their side. All of a sudden, the sense of collective honor is about to explode. Not only the monsters in the Palace of 10,000 Beasts, but also all the immortal officials who witnessed this scene felt proud, extremely proud and excited, and could straighten up as if they had found the confidence. After all, before this, they really felt humble and powerless, and they could only let this group of outsider monks do evil. In this case, it is undoubtedly a huge encouragement for someone to stand up and break the situation. By the way, are these useful to you? Yi Junlin glanced at the corpses of the 10 semi-holy beasts and asked out of curiosity. He remembered that this kunpeng did not need special training and could improve its cultivation by growing or devouring it. Kun was startled, as if he thought of his own talent, and said ecstatically, useful, very useful. I can eat them all, which will be of great benefit to improve my cultivation. Yi Junlin smiled and said, why don't you go quickly? This is a rare buffet. Thank you, Master. Akun stood up from the ground excitedly, soaring into the sky. With a loud roar, a huge whale-like creature flapped its wings and stirred up majestic airflow, appearing above the immortal court. This is Kunpeng. Shang Jiba's face was shocked and his breathing became rapid. He has read a lot of ancient books and read records about the mythical beast Kunpeng. This is a super creature known as the Lord of Demons. It has extremely huge potential and is invincible in its same realm. It is said that the few remaining Kunpengs have already fallen into the hands of giants in the Juyu realm, and there are no other Kunpengs living outside at all. However, today he actually saw a living Kunpeng in this backward world. Shang Jiba could instantly understand why Yuan Hua ignored the advice and insisted on subduing the young man. If it were him, he probably wouldn't be able to hold it back. Look, it's the legendary beast Kunpeng. My god, I can actually see someone alive here. You are only at the immortal Dao level. If you were outside, you would have become a saint long ago. Good opportunity, maybe I can. After seeing Akun's true form clearly, the divine court monks present were all boiling with excitement. Their eyes were first extremely shocked, and then replaced by a deep greed. They were only half saints, but if a Kunpeng was released outside, it would be the starting point of the true saint realm. Because of its huge growth potential, it is the mount or war pet in the minds of countless people. It is no exaggeration to say that if a Kunpeng was found in the universe, it would definitely be fought over by the top forces of all parties. A moment, the eyes of the divine court monks were hot, and they were ready to move. Ahem, Yi Junlin pretended to cough dryly a few times, and glanced at them intentionally or unintentionally. In an instant, everyone suddenly realized something, as if they were poured with a basin of ice water, cold from head to toe. They almost forgot how terrible this native was. As strong as 10 half-saint beasts, they were killed one by one. In comparison, they are not so resistant to beating, aren't they as fragile as paper? Shang Jiba recovered from his shock and said with a wry smile, fellow Taoist Yi can actually subdue a Kunpeng. I am really envious of him. Yi Junlin waved his hands and said, no way, he is handsome and lucky. Shang Jiba was speechless, and the muscles at the corners of his eyes twitched. I have seen shameless people, but I have never seen such shameless people. At this time, Akun opened his unique talent, which is to devour. The next moment, he opened his huge mouth like the abyss and swallowed the corpses of half-saint beasts into his stomach, which seemed like a bottomless pit, with great visual impact. After swallowing, Akun felt hot all over, and was particularly sleepy, as if he was going to fall into a long sleep. Master, I am so sleepy. Akun's eyelids were heavy, and he said to Yi Junlin with difficulty. Yi Junlin smiled, took out the exclusive pet bag obtained by signing in, and said, come in, sleep as long as you want. Swish, Akun said nothing and turned into a stream of light and got into the bag. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Yi Junlin put away the pet bag. He knew very well that his mount would undergo a huge transformation. Window. _tabula equals window. _tabula. Push mode. Thumbs feed 01. Container. Tabula below article thumbnail. 300 by 250 feet. Placement. Below article thumbnail 300 by 250 feet. Target _type. Mix.